Good evening, Oakland and beyond. Hope everybody is doing fine and dandy out there on this Sunday night in Oaktown, East Bay, and beyond, wherever you may be tuning in from on our Twitch channel. Apologies for a little bit of a late start. Was kind of trying to coordinate things with Bossman on when he'll be popping in on tonight's broadcast, and also I accidentally closed out a window that I needed for things here in the first segment, so I had to make sure I got that opened back up before I got things rolling with that. And also, obviously, apologies because the fact the show was supposed to happen Thursday, but some last-minute stuff came up on my end that I had to go and help out with and address. So that's why we're coming at you with a very rare Sunday night edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland athletics. Let's go ahead and get show number 319 of AsFAnRAdio underway. Once again, good evening, Oakland Beyond. It is the Legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown checking in with you, of course, from the home base and HQ of AFR. That is, of course, Dub 6 Studios, located in the Eastmont Hills of Oakland, California, where I have a view of the Coliseum basically every night I go to bed and every morning when I wake up. Great to be coming at you again. Apologies for the late start and the show having to be rescheduled. Again, stuff on my end came up, had to get that done, and figured, what the hell, why not do a rare Sunday night edition of the show? Obviously, got a lot to touch bases on with y'all since the last time we came at you. Obviously, A's-related stuff, things pertaining to the quest to get a new ballpark built for the A's in Oakland, how things are looking as far as the standings are shaping up here, coming down to the tail end of things, and, of course, the latest with Cal football and the Oakland Roots as well to be coming at you before the evening is over with. The main man, the boss man, is slated to join me approximately sometime around the 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time frame at this point in time right now, unless something comes up to change that between now and then. I guess he's got something on his end that kind of carried over to the start of the show. So, again, Boss will be joining us during the 8:30 p.m. hour. And once again, we'll be, unfortunately, holding off on doing the Down on the Farm segment. Probably what I'll end up doing is wait a couple shows until we get around to the show that takes place where we recap the finale of A's games to close out the year, and probably take a look at what the minor league teams were up to and finished off their seasons with at that point in time with a Down on the Farm segment, and probably take a look and see if what the top 30 prospects are at that point in time, if they've updated things yet, and then when it goes down with that. And in case you haven't seen things over on the upcoming events section of the AsFAnRAdio page, we will obviously get around to creating event pages for them over on the Facebook page, and, of course, sharing the links to access those from the Twitter page, so you can, of course, RSVP for those broadcasts and any other future broadcasts we do. We will yet again, even though the A's will not be in the postseason, the dynamic duo of yours truly and the boss man have decided we will do postseason editions of AsFAnRAdio yet again, and just cover what the rest of the teams that are going to be going to the postseason end up doing, because just we still got kind of an itch to talk baseball, and we're individuals that have always followed the MLB postseason regardless if the A's are in the hunt or not. And I know many others of you out there do that as well, because you all have tuned in to some of those shows when we've done those in the past. And kind of, again, as has been the trend for the last couple of years, basically doing it to make up for show dates that we lost in 2020 when COVID happened, because at this point we'd probably be halfway to 400 shows since the relaunch of this broadcast, instead of, just being barely, halfway to 300 or just closing in on 320 at this point. So expect postseason edition dates to be coming soon. Again, that's regardless of the A's not making the postseason. Bossman and I will still recap postseason action through October and into the World Series, which, with the way the schedule's set up, could carry into November, which means, of course, our season in review of how your Oakland Athletics did will take place after those postseason editions of the show happen. So, yeah, again, expect postseason editions of the show, and again, just to reiterate, no Down on the Farm segment. It's going to be a few shows before we do that, and when we do finally do that, it'll basically be to recap how the minor league teams performed in their respective levels over the course of the 2022 minor league season. And again, in case you're just tuning in, Bossman will be joining me roughly about 21 minutes from now, sometime around at or after the 8:30 p.m. mark. So we'll, of course, catch up with him at whatever point we are at that point. But until then, let's go ahead and get things underway with things in the first segment of tonight's show. It's going to be another one of those broadcasts where pretty much the recap action of the past group of A's games that have taken place since our last show will not begin until the second segment of the show, as we're going to go ahead and dedicate the first segment of tonight's show, of course, to a subject that's been primarily the first subject on the show the last several broadcasts for a while now, and it's, of course, the latest pertaining to the Howard Terminal Project, and then also a couple little tidbits of A's news before we head on into the first break of the evening. And if you haven't had a chance to do so, by the way, since it is basically 8:10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time now, the fan question of the night is out there. Been out since about 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and it's, of course, reposted/retweeted again up on the Facebook and Twitter pages. So if you haven't had a chance to do so, head over to either facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio to submit your responses to tonight's fan question of the night. And I, of course, will read all those responses at the end of tonight's show. And funny thing is, one of the subjects we'll be touching bases on has to do with that fan question. So if you haven't heard it yet, haven't seen it yet, I'll be reminding you, of course, at the end of the first segment and throughout the course of the end of each segment on tonight's broadcast. So yeah, on that note, let's go ahead and get into the latest of things as far as what's going on with Howard Terminal, as far as things that went down on 9/20, updates pertaining to what's going on with the fallout from the ruling on the lawsuits that were filed against the E&R for the project, and a little bit of Vegas intel that myself and the boss have learned within the last couple of days. We, of course, will first start off, kind of a quick little go over of what happened on September 20th. And, of course, when boss comes in, chimes in, he'll share his take and his perspective on all this stuff that happened. Pretty much you had the city council with a meeting that was already planned and scheduled for not just this little tidbit they did on Howard Terminal, but other things this past Tuesday, September the 20th, pretty much going over finances, all that stuff, other little tidbits, the negotiating. One of the pieces that came out, of course, was that at that point in time they had gotten basically roughly 90% of the off-site infrastructure funding that the A's wanted to help with funding with, doing upgrades to roads, sidewalks, freeway on-ramps, off-ramps, that kind of infrastructure upgrades around the area where the proposed ballpark site is at. But they also warned as well that obviously due to possible inflation, that gap could end up rising, and that they obviously still need to find other means to do with that, and that's, regardless if you go options of doing other grants, trying to get a hold of other, stuff like what they have acquired at this point. The A's may be throwing in some money or some sort of party getting involved to toss money into this project, and pretty much, kind of mixed reactions from a lot of people out there. You got individuals out there who feel like, that something can still be pulled off by the end of the year, but, not going to really see something anytime soon, possibly of going into the beginning of next year with this, which, everyone kind of has always felt like they really want to try to avoid because of having, not so much just, a new mayor in place, but a new set of city council members in place there instead of, getting everything done with what's going on right now. Others took it, kind of a little bit out of context, feel like, the deal's going to end up crashing and burning. I didn't get that vibe from that. Boss didn't either, but Boss is one of those, of course, of the opinion that he's felt like it was going to be closer to the end of the year, maybe beginning of next year before things get finalized with this anyway, and we'll ultimately have to see what's going on with that. Others kind of took it as maybe an announcement is perhaps imminent that a deal is going to be hammered out. I forgot the gentleman's name, the guy that's part of the, I believe it's part of the whole negotiating scene, or who one of the people that was presenting during that meeting up back on September the 20th, pretty much hinted at or said that he felt in order for the city council to be able to get to the binding votes to move this thing forward by the end of the year, that a deal needs to be basically worked out and, set up between the A's and the city within a week of September 20th. So you're basically kind of looking at, if that were to hold out to be true, that obviously gives us a couple days from now, which would be the 27th. Here it is, the 25th, 27th is 2 days from now. Do I see that happening? It's kind of really a long shot. Never say never, but again, I'm still in the camp that feels that this deal can happen, and it's pretty much on the A's if they want to do this, or if they want to try to risk blowing the deal up and trying to do something with things down in Vegas, which I'm going to get to here in a little bit as a result of some intel that, again, as I mentioned, myself and Boss got a hold of within the last few days. But before I get to that Vegas intel, excuse me, one of the things I wanted to make sure that I touched on as well is a little bit of the update again of the fallout from the decision on the lawsuits that were filed against the environmental impact report for the Howard Terminal Project. If y'all remember, Union Pacific, the Joint Powers Authority for the Capital Corridor, and, of course, the East Oakland Stadium Alliance. And I think there might have been a fourth party thrown into the mix kind of near the end, filed lawsuits against us that all got combined. Outside of, pretty much things having to be adjusted and redetermined with the wind study on that, the judge ruled in favor of not having to have anything done in the EIR, recertified, redone, and all that. Obviously, many of us were expecting, the individuals involved in this to appeal. One of the updates that was put out there a couple days ago, back on September the 22nd, this is coming from the Hills Are Alive, who you can, of course, follow at Hills for HT over on Twitter. News in the CEQA case: we expected deep-pocketed Union Pacific Railroad to appeal to the max. This, of course, again, is in to regards to the decision that was made on the lawsuits. Instead, they've waived the right to appeal in return for walking away without owing any sort of court costs, court costs, or peanuts to someone like the Union Pacific Railroad. And basically, that's good news for the city and the A's. Notice of appeal has to be filed within 5 court days after notice of entry from judgment is served. CCGPA's deadline is very soon. The third petitioner, which of course is the East Oakland Stadium Alliance, is a bit longer. Appeal, by the way, would be easy. They've already been briefed on the issues. And as far as anything in regards to what's going on with if the Joint Powers Authority for the Union Pacific, or excuse me, not for the Union Pacific Railroad, if the JPA for the Capital Corridor is going to do anything, basically from a individual that reached out to us who pretty much follows a lot of transit-related matters in the Bay Area, sent to us that the Capital Corridor met in a closed session for about an hour this past Wednesday, so Wednesday the 21st, discussing that subject on if they were going to appeal or not. But at that point in time, when he sent us this info this past Friday, he hadn't heard anything as far as a decision that would go down with that. So Union Pacific deciding not to appeal, waiting to see if Capital Corridor's Joint Powers Authority will end up appealing. And you've heard this from myself and Bossman before, and he'll probably reiterate it again, which is the fact that we fully expect the East Oakland Alliance to appeal. We've always expected that out of any of them, they would be the one that would for sure appeal. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of shocked that the Union Pacific Railroad ended up not, doing an appeal as well. So maybe something's been worked out or can be worked out behind the scenes to address some of the concerns they had. We'll obviously keep you updated on what goes on as far as if the Capital Corridor decides to appeal or not, and obviously not if, but when the news drops that, again, in our opinions, an obvious appeal probably eventually coming from the East Oakland Stadium Alliance. Finally, as far as my final thing that I want to touch bases on as far as Howard Terminal related stuff is, of course, the Vegas intel that myself and my co-host learned within the last couple days from an individual that we know that happens to be pretty knowledgeable on things and also tied into the real estate game, not just in the Bay Area, but pretty much around the West Coast and other areas, per se, in the western portion of the United States. And one of those connections that he either knows directly or has, in the know knowledge of what's going on as far as things pertaining to what's being done with this quote-unquote parallel path stuff down in the Vegas area is pretty much the a couple of the things that individuals down there that own land that the A's want to purchase, specifically anything related to any potential sites around the area of the Strip. Those individuals pretty much want non-refundable down payments put down for these sites that the A's have apparently looked at down there. And the A's are pretty much so far being very hesitant about wanting to do anything like that. That's probably because of ultimately what happened when they had to put down the down payment for the county's half of the Coliseum site, banking on that they were going to be able to acquire the city's half with no issue whatsoever. And, of course, as we all know, ultimately ASEG acquired the city's half of the site, so that's something that obviously will need to be worked out in time. So it's kind of understandable that individuals down there, especially if you're a yoo-hoo that owns property along the Vegas Strip, you're going to want some sort of non-refundable, down payment put down, for just your time being invested in this. And if you're trying to lock down stuff for that, and of course, as we all remember, they the amount they paid that was non-refundable, by the way, when they agreed to terms to get the county's half of the Coliseum site was basically around $10 million the day they agreed to the terms on that, and pretty much that Fisher doesn't want to fork over any kind of non-refundable deposit for anything in Vegas, at least pretty much yet at this time, and pretty much, I guess, also confirmed that there was kind of talks between the A's and whoever owns Tropicana, and Tropicana was basically like, thanks, but no thanks. This individual is also apparently meeting with somebody that is going to be having a meeting with Covell sometime within the next week or so, and he also apparently is an individual that this guy knows that knew about the stuff involving Rufin before Mike Akers reported about it, and basically Rufin came out here to talk to Fisher about trying to basically get a hold of some ownership stake in the team in exchange for the festival grounds over by Circus, and but some of the holdups have been basically public financing, which again, the governor of Nevada has been really, really hesitant to do, and it seems like a lot of other politicians have been hesitant to do with this as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if Fisher, as usual, as he has been the last several years, has been basically like, thanks but no thanks in regards to selling off any sort of, stake in the team, which, in reality, he's going to probably have to do that either here or there, anywhere, trying to get this done ultimately at that point. And kind of pretty much as well, another thing too is that some of the, I guess, politicos down there in Vegas want binding votes in place too in regards to agreements on things, similar to what the A's are seeking up here with Howard Terminal. And the A's really are not wanting to do that because of the fact that things are still cooking up here. So you almost get this vibe pretty much that, Vegas is, I guess, per se, playing, what's the word? Is basically playing hardball with the A's and Fisher. And, this individual also confirmed something that Bossman, pretty much heard when he was in Vegas back in, the end of July, which is that basically nobody really cares about the A's in Vegas. They have no interest in it. They also don't want to deal with John Fisher and his shenanigans. And they ultimately would rather have an expansion team out there in the Las Vegas area. So, going to be real interesting to continue to follow everything that pans out with that. So that's pretty much my take on the matter. As I mentioned, whenever Boss is able to chime in, we'll make sure to get his take on all three of those issues. Going to be interesting to see if there's anything that comes up between now and the next edition of the show, which, we're going to be coming at you 5 days from now, by the way, with show number 320 in our only noontime broadcast of the year. It's been a hot while since we've done a noon show. So obviously, if anything goes down with this, either in regards to what's going on with negotiating things for a deal to ultimately get to the city council to get a binding vote down on this damn thing, and then you still got the county that has to do a binding vote and then get, permits from the BCDC and all that other good stuff, going to keep you up to date on everything that goes down with this. And obviously, whatever little tidbits we learn about, with the parallel path crap, as we hear him. We'll keep you posted on that as well. So be sure to stay tuned, obviously, for some point here during the first half of tonight's broadcast, again, for Bossman's take on what went down on September the 20th, in his take on things with the appeals possibly that could be done with the lawsuit, and, of course, that little tidbit of intel from the Vegas desert that myself and the Bossman received in the last couple of days. Quick little pieces of Oakland athletics news that we're going to touch on before we take our first break of the night here on the show. In case you missed it, we're going to go ahead and do the game recap starting in the second segment of tonight's broadcast. Yeah, I know we've been kind of doing that the last couple of weeks, but that's only because of just a lot of the stuff with Howard Terminal that, we've been hearing about loosely behind the scenes or had been out there publicly leading up to the September 20th that were out there. So things kind of really haven't changed. We'll have to see, obviously, if that ends up being the case 5 days from now with the show. So, yeah, game recaps will be coming at you beginning after the second segment of tonight's show, so just after we begin our first break of the night here in a bit. Before we get to that, of course, the first reminder of what the fan question of the night is for this edition of the show, let's just go ahead and tell you if you haven't looked at things yet. The fan question night happens to do with this first of two A's-related subjects that we're going to go ahead and talk about here real quickly, and that's, of course, the news that Stephen Vogt back on September the 22nd made the announcement that he is going to go ahead and hang it up when the 2022 season comes to a close. Stephen Vogt's going to finally retire after 10 professional years in the major leagues. Played basically with 6 teams over the course of that those 10 years in the majors. Obviously, the organization he identifies with most closely is the Oakland Athletics because of the fact that after he initially was drafted by and came up through the Tampa Bay Rays organization, things kind of really didn't pan out for him there. He was blocked at, in some ways, some form. Ultimately, was traded to the A's at some point. And I want to say, unfortunately, began his major league career with, I think it was like an 0 for 11 or 0 for 12 streak before he finally banged out his first career hit. And a guy that pretty much, for many of us out there, became kind of, a little bit of a cult-like hero amongst the A's fan base, which is not uncommon. That's happened with a lot of players in Oakland over the years. Matt Stairs had that cult-like aurora around him, a whole bunch of others out there that I can't name off the top of my head right this second because I want to make sure I don't lose my train of thought on this subject. But, y'all know where I'm going at with this for those of you that have pretty much followed A's history for either the entirety of it here being in Oakland, maybe before that, or, as you've been growing up, regardless of your age group. Let's see here. What else do I got? Basically, that was why he chose to sign with the A's this spring, despite receiving offers from other clubs this past offseason. Prior to this past Thursday's game against the Mariners, the 37-year-old catcher announced that he, of course, would plan to retire at the end of the season. He was quoted as saying, "It's something I wanted to do while we were in Oakland. I made up my mind in late July that it was going to be it. I wanted to share it with the people of Oakland and have some time before the end of the year to process and just enjoy the last couple of weeks. It felt fitting to do it in Oakland. It just felt like it was the right time." Embodying the definition of perseverance, Vogt began his major league career by he went 0 for 32, so I was several at-bats off. Of course, the first 25 of those at-bats coming with the Tampa Bay Rays before he was designated for assignment and later traded to the A's for cash considerations. On June 28, 2013, that's when Vogt finally notched his first hit, which was a solo home run off of Joe Kelly in a game against the Cardinals at the Coliseum. And, of course, we all know where Stephen Vogt's career basically went after that. 10 careers in Major League Baseball, 10-year career in Major League Baseball, and 6 of those 10 years, of course, being with the Oakland Athletics. 2-time American League All-Star. He's 3-time Catfish Hunter Award winner. That's probably 4 times now because he was given the Catfish Hunter Award again today, unless this graphic was made before the announcement of the award. I'll have to obviously double-check on that once that news is put up on the A's website or just try to find it somewhere. And, of course, he's a 2-time recipient of the Dave Stewart Community Service Award. So congrats to you, Stephen Vogt, on a hell of a career. Individual that some out there kind of want to see, get into something in baseball after his career. I've heard some out there mention, potential broadcaster, but the one that I'm seeing many lean out there, and it's the one that I'm leaning towards, obviously, of course, is I'd love to see this guy be a coach at some point whenever he's ready to do so after his post-MLB career has come to a close. So definitely be interesting to see what he decides to do after he hangs him up at the end of the year. So again, congratulations to Stephen Vogt on 10 great years in Major League Baseball. And hey, we here at AFR have always believed in you, good sir. One other tidbit that I wanted to put out there, of course, before we took our first break of the night here on the show is, of course, the announcement being made that the class of 2023 for the Athletics Hall of Fame has been released. Of course, the fans being given the opportunity to vote on the individuals that would go in to the 2023 Hall of Fame class. I'm pretty sure that, or I would hope that former players from their time with the organization would have some say on this, but who knows? Maybe one day we'll find out the inner workings if anything factors in from the A's side of things in these fan votes for this or not. Anyway, AL MVP Jason Giambi, World Series champions Carney Lansford and Gene Tennis, Philadelphia Athletic Bob Johnson, and of course the voice of God, public address announcer the late Roy Steele, will be enshrined in franchise history forever as member of the Athletics Hall of Fame as part of the class of 2023. The group will be celebrated during a pregame ceremony that will take place at the Oakland Coliseum on Sunday, August 6th of next season. Again, August 6, 2023, during the A's annual the A's annual Bay Bridge Series against the San Francisco Giants. A member of the Green and Gold for 8 seasons, 1995 to 2001, and again in 2009, Jason Giambi began his major league career with the Oakland A's in '95. Giambi led the team with 27 homers, 110 RBIs, and a .295 batting average in 1998. The following year, he hit 315 with 33 homers, 105 walks, and 123 RBIs. His impressive hitting continued in 2000, notching a career-high 43 home runs and 137 RBIs, earning him AL MVP honors. With a nearly identical 2001 season, Giambi finished in second in MVP voting and won the Silver Slugger Award. 5-time All-Star in his career, Giambi represented the A's in the Midsummer Classic twice in 2000 and 2001. Giambi holds the Oakland records for batting average in a season, which of course was .342 in 2001, and is in a career with 300. He also holds the Oakland single-season record for RBIs with 137 back in 2000, walks with 137 also back in 2000, extra base hits with 87 in 2001, and on-base percentage with .477 in 2001 as well. Carney Lansford played in the majors as a third baseman from 1978 to 1992, most notably as a member of the A's from '83 to 1992. Lansford was a part of the A's dynasty team that won 3 consecutive American League pennants and a World Series championship in 1989 against the Bay Area rival San Francisco Giants. Lansford led the A's in batting in 1984 with a batting average of .300 and 1989 with an average of .336, and finished his Oakland career with a .288 batting average, which is second best in Oakland history. Lansford was selected as an American League All-Star in 1988. A 3-time World Series champion during the 3 consecutive year streak that the A's had of winning World Series from 1972 to 74, Gene Tennis had 4 home runs and 9 RBIs in the 72 World Series to earn MVP honors. He was also named to the AL All-Star team in 1975. Tennis had a .245 batting average in his 8 seasons with the A's, but his on-base percentage was more than 100 points better at .374. He led the club in walks 4 straight seasons from 73 to 76 and drew 475 3 passes as an Athletic to go along with 121 home runs and 389 career RBIs. Tennis ranks amongst the Oakland top 10 in most games caught with 446 and most games at first base with 385. Bob Johnson's 13-year career, which lasted from 1933 to 1945, was highlighted by 10 seasons with the Philadelphia Athletics. He was a 5-time All-Star, and his 997 runs scored were a franchise record until Rickey Henderson broke the mark in 1993. Johnson still ranks among the Athletics' all-time leaders in runs, second with 997, RBI third with 1,040, walks third with 853, extra base hits third with 631, doubles fourth with 307, hits fifth with 1,617, and he's also fifth on the career home run list for the A's with 252 ding-dong doodles. He slugged 20 or more home runs and scored 90 or more runs in each of his first 9 seasons and had 7 consecutive 100 RBI seasons from 1935 to 1941. Johnson led the club in RBI 7 times, home runs, walks, and slugging percentage 6 times, runs 5 times, and batting average 3 times. Finally, Roy Steele was the PA voice of the A's for nearly 4 decades. Steele began announcing for the A's in 1968, the team's inaugural season in Oakland, and remained the public address announcer for 38 seasons. He worked through 6 World Series, an All-Star game, and through the A's zeros from the Mustache Gang to Billy Ball, the Bash Brothers, the Mustache Gang to Billy Ball, the Bash Brothers, and Moneyball. His booming baritone was beloved by A's fans and earned him the nickname Voice of God. Earlier this season, the A's inducted Sal Bando, Eric Chavez, Ray Fosse, Keith Lippman, Joe Rudy, and former clubhouse manager Steve Vucinich into the A's Hall of Fame. The 218 inaugural class included Dennis Eckersley, Raleigh Fingers, Charlie Finley, Rickey Henderson, Catfish Hunter, Reggie Jackson, and Dave Stewart. In 2019, the A's inducted Vida Blue, Bert Campy Campaneras, Mark McGuire, Walter A. Haas Jr., and Tony La Russa into the A's Hall of Fame. There was no class of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The A's inducted 10 members of the Philadelphia A's, including former owner/manager Connie Mack, Baseball Hall of Famers Eddie Collins and Eddie Plank, Frank Baker, Chief Bender, Mickey Cochran, Jimmy Fox, Lefty Grove, Al Simmons, and Rude Waldell back in 2001. And again, the class of 2023 will be celebrated during the Bay Bridge Series at the Coliseum on Sunday, August the 6th of 2023. For more information on that, be sure to visit athletics.com/fans. One thing I'm hoping for, by the way, and I will happen to make sure to re-mention this again during my final thought on tonight's show, and this, of course, is pertaining to if one Mr. Dave Kovel or anybody that we know out in the A's front office happens to be listening tonight. There's one name missing from that, and that's the other Finley. Would be Carl Finley, who was the brain of the A's front office for many, many years. It'd be nice to finally see Carl be honored alongside Charlie and some of the guys during the Mustache Gang era that he helped get signed and brought up and developed in the organization and ultimately with the MLB club. So, yeah, again, congratulations to these guys. Again, I understand some questions and concerns that some have out there, but again, this is what's going to happen when you involve fans voting on this, I guess, because I'm going to agree with one of the longtime Bleacher folks that I know out there that how come Dwayne Murphy isn't in there yet with some of the stuff he's done? One of the cats that has a cult following, I'm surprised Matt Stairs hasn't been put in there yet. He probably will at some point because of that cult following. But, there's a lot of who's out there that deserve to be in there. And I'm definitely a big factor and pusher of Carl Finley being put in there. So, again, for any of you from the A's that are listening, it's about time. It's been past time and past due time to do that. Put Carl Finley in the A's Hall of Fame, finally, Oakland Athletics. Thank you very much. Fan question of the night reminder, finally hitting you upside the head here tonight during the first half of tonight's broadcast. If you haven't had a chance to do so, be sure to make your way over to either Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter to submit your responses to the fan question of the night. You can look for the post or tweet that went up at either 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or the retweet quoted one that went up at 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Just follow the directions. Submit your response. I will read all those responses, of course, during the final segment of tonight's show. Tonight's fan question of the night, of course, being we want to hear y'all's thoughts on Stephen Vogt announcing his retirement, which will, of course, go down at the end of this season. So, again, to get your responses into that, Facebook.com/AsFanRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. And, again, just look for the posts that say fan question of the night. We come back, we'll go ahead and get into the normal game recap shenanigans here on A's Fan Radio, as of course we will go ahead and take a look at game action that went down for your Oakland Athletics from September the 16th to earlier today. Of course, before the first half of the night's over with, we will also preview the series that the A's have on tap between now and the next time we come at you 5 days from now on Friday. Of course, we are awaiting the main man, the boss man, to join us to share his thoughts on things. And, of course, a whole lot more to still come your way before this night is over with. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back at you here in a bit on show number 319 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue on down the road here during the first half of tonight's edition of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics. A's talk from the fans' point of view since 2003. It is a rare Sunday night edition of A's Fan Radio. Show number 319, in fact, of A's Fan Radio since the show returned from a 4-year hiatus back in 2011. It is, of course, the dynamic duo of the main man, the boss man, and, of course, yours truly, Cpl Oaktown, scheduled to be coming at you before the night is over with. Still waiting for the boss man to hit me up here on the cellular telephone unit to get him in on the mix, to get his take on things with stuff with the Ballpark Project that we touched bases on during the first segment of tonight's show, and his take on things with the Oakland Athletics, of course, as of late, depending on how much time he has to talk when he does finally join us. So, still waiting for the other half of what's become known as the dynamic duo on this show over the course of the last 9 years. So, not just creeping up on the 10th anniversary of the 20th anniversary of A's Fan Radio. We're creeping up on the 10-year anniversary of the formation of that tag team of A's Knuckleheads right there that y'all are looking at. Not specifically those comic book versions of us, but basically myself and the boss man. On that note, let's go ahead and get on into game recap shenanigans here during the first half of tonight's show, which, of course, when you hear me say first half, normally first half, traditionally, we try to keep it within an hour because we always try to shoot for roughly a 2-hour-long show. Obviously, with us having a little extra game action to look at, not just with the A's, but with Cal football and the Roots as well later on during the infamous X-rated second half of the broadcast. I'm expecting probably roughly around about a 2.5 hour, maybe 2.5 hour plus edition of AFR to come y'all's way before this evening is done and over with. So that's why I'm saying first half of the show instead of first hour of these shows. So, again, beginning things here in the second segment of show number 319 of A's Fan Radio, we, of course, begin to take a look back at the last week's plus worth of Oakland Athletics action as we go back to begin things with all of this back on September the 16th. Of course, that was when Game 2 of a 4-game series went down at Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, between your Oakland Athletics and their division rival and foes, and basically still the top dog, as much as we hate it, of the AL West at this point in time. We previously already recapped the first game of that series because that game happened to wrap up a little while before we got done doing the last edition of A's Fan Radio back on the 15th. It was a game, of course, that your Oakland Athletics ended up losing by the final of 5-2. Let's see how things would play out for Oaktown and H-Town in Game 2 of this 4-game series in Houston, Texas. Here's what went down on September the 16th between your Oakland Athletics and the Houston Astros. Houston would score first in that Friday night contest as they would score the first run of the contest in the bottom of the first inning. They would also add on more runs before this was all said and done with a single run in the bottom of the third, 2 runs in the bottom of the fifth, and their final single run of the contest in the bottom of the 6th. That it was all they would basically need. They wouldn't score anything from the 7th inning on. Really didn't need to, because the Oakland Athletics, unfortunately, would put up 9 straight goose eggs on the run side of things in all 9 frames of this contest, as the A's drop the second game of this series as well, losing this one to Houston by the final of 5-0. Houston, 5 runs, 8 hits, no errors. Oakland, no runs, 3 hits, and 1 error in this one. Justin Verlander getting the win for the Astros in this one as he improved to 17-3 on the year. Martinez taking the loss for the A's as he fell to 4-5 on the year. No home runs for the A's in this one. A bunch of home runs for the Astros, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately for us, not so unfortunate for them in this one. Alvarez hit 3 in this one to bring his total on the year at that point to 36. And you also had Pena hit 1 out as well for his 18th homer of the year. So 2 individuals hit 4 home runs, 3 of those being hit by one of those 2 guys. Martinez, again, got the start for the A's in this one, went 5 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs given up, all 4 of those runs being earned. 3 walks. He did have 6 punch-outs, but he, of course, surrendered all 4 of the long balls given up in this one by the Oakland Athletics pitching staff. Keown came in to basically pitch the final 3 innings in this one for the Oakland Athletics. So, not off to a good start in this series against a longtime division rival. And again, as we all unfortunately hate to look at it, the squad that continues to be top dog in the doghouse of the AL West find yourselves down 2 games to none already in this final series that you have against the Houston Astros. You know, it would be nice to see these Yoo-Hoos play spoiler against some of these teams in the AL West that are still in the playoff hunt. But, that's a lot to ask, unfortunately, from a team that the dynamic duo predicted to be basically rooted in straight donkey ass back in November of last year. On that note, let's go ahead and see if the A's would somehow miraculously fare better in the 3rd game of this 3-game set, or if those L's would be continued to be thrown right at their faces as this 4-game set played on at Minute Maid Park. Game 3 between Oakland and Houston, of course, going down back on Saturday, September the 17th. Just waiting on game day to load, so that way I got the box score in front of my face to give you the inning-by-inning breakdowns of the runs. There we go. Oakland would score first in the 3rd game of this series a couple Saturdays ago, as they would score 1 run in the top of the 1st. That 1-run lead would be short-lived. Short-lived basically by it lasted until the bottom half of that 1st inning, when the Astros would drop their first 4 runs of the contest on the A's in that one. Oakland would begin to slowly cut their way back into things with 1 run in the top of the 3rd, 1 run in the top of the 4th, and then, of course, they were able to actually take a 5-4 lead. Or hold on, let me make sure I'm getting my math right on this. No, excuse me, a 6-4 lead with 3 runs in the top of the 5th. They scored a single run in the bottom of the 7th before Houston would end up scoring ultimately their final run of the contest in the bottom of the 8th. The A's would, just for shits and giggles, throw on one insurance run in the top of the 9th as they actually get a victory when this one's all said and done, winning the 3rd game of this 4-game set in Houston over the Astros by the final of 8-5. Oakland, 8 runs, 10 hits, no errors. Houston, 5 runs, 10 hits, 1 error in that contest that went down on Saturday, September the 17th. Winning pitcher for your Oakland Athletics, and that one is, of course, good friend of the show, Swervin Cole Irvin, as he improved to 9-11 this on the year at that point in time. Uquati, took the loss for the Astros as he fell to 13-7 on the year, and Acevedo got his 2nd save of the year for the A's in this one. Home runs in this contest, first over on the A's side, the great Chad Pender hitting his 12th home run of the year. Seth Brown going deep as well for his 23rd home run of the season. You also, of course, had some Astros go deep in this one as well, as Diaz hit his 12th of the year. Tucker hit his 28th of the year. And, that same Yoo-Hoo that hit the 3 bombs the night before added another one to that total as Alvarez ended up going deep as well for the 37th time this season. Mentioned, of course, Cole Irvin getting the start for the A's. 7 innings pitched, 7 hits given up, 4 runs, all 4 of those runs being earned. No walks, 1 strikeout. He did give up 3 of the 4 home runs in this contest, but pretty much spread them out over the course of those 7 innings, and shockingly, the A's were actually able to give him some run support to allow him to get the W over the course of those 7 innings he was in the game. Puck came in to pitch an inning himself with 2 hits, 1 run given up, that 1 run being earned, no walks, no strikeouts. He gave up the 4th and final home run that the A's pitching staff surrendered back on September the 17th. He ended up getting his 18th hold of the year in that one. And, of course, Acevedo pitched the final inning of this one for the A's pitching staff to pick up his 2nd save of the year when that one was all said and done. So, nice to see the A's have a little bit of fight in them against their division rival finally. Again, would have been nice to have seen that a little bit earlier in the series, to play a little bit of a, spoiler per se. Again, a lot to ask of this A's squad, unfortunately, in 2022. But, hey, you never know. It can sometimes happen. Crazier crap has happened in the baseball world, either for against the A's or for against other teams across Major League Baseball in all the years that it's been played out. But, hey, you at least got yourself set up in a position where, hey, quite possibly you could split your final series of the season against a team that's basically became a longtime division rival after they initially started off playing like straight rooted and donkey ass themselves when they initially came over to the AL. But hey, like it or not, both Bossman and I warned you that that wasn't going to be the case with that Astros team for very long, and we've all ultimately seen what's happened with that. Though of course we're both still loosely pissed off about the fact they cheated in 2017, but also at the same time, if you want to really, get past that and all that, the A's or somebody have to knock that Astros team off the pedestal at some point. Because until that happens, they have the right to basically talk shit because they run the yard, whether we like it or not at this point in time. Let's go ahead and see if the A's somehow could pull off a split to close out this final series against the Astros for this season, or if they would end up losing 3 out of 4 in Houston. Here's what went down in that finale against the Astros back on last Sunday, September the 18th. First runs of the game, I should say, would come in the 3rd inning. And unfortunately, it would not be from your Oakland Athletics. It would be from the Houston Astros, as they would drop a 5 spot to begin the scoring for either team in this one in the bottom of the 3rd. They would add on to that with 2 runs in the bottom of the 4th before the A's finally got what would be their lone 2 runs of the contest on the board in the top of the 6th. The A's wouldn't score anything over the course of the final 3 innings in that one. The Astros, on the other hand, they added an insurance run in the bottom half of that 6th inning, and then just for their own sick, twisted amusement, I guess, decided to add on 3 more in the bottom of the 7th, as the Astros do ultimately end up taking 3 out of 4 from the A's in this final matchup between the two teams in 2022, winning the series again 3 games out of 4, and winning this final game back on September the 18th by the final of 11-2. Houston, 11 runs, 15 hits, 1 error. Oakland, 2 runs, 5 hits, 1 error in that one. Valdez picking up the win for the Astros as he improves to 16-5 on the year. Whitelchuck taking the loss for Oakland as he falls to 0. Excuse me on that, as I'm just smacking crap all over the place. My bad. Whitelchuck falling to 0-2 on the 2022 season. No ding-dong doodles for your Oakland Athletics in this one. The only home run that was hit by an Astro in that contest just over a week ago was by Maldonado as he hit his 13th homer of the year for Houston in that contest back on September the 18th. As mentioned, Whitelchuck got the start. He only lasted 2 2/3 before ultimately getting the loss in this one 5 hits given up, 5 runs surrendered, all 5 of those runs being earned. 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. You didn't give up any homers in this one. Before you had Wiles come in for 3 innings. Snead pitched 2/3 of an inning. You had Sear come in for 2/3 of an inning. He ultimately gave up the lone home run that the A's surrendered in that September the 18th contest. And then Ruiz came in for the final inning of work in that contest. So, yeah, I hate to say it, folks. Unfortunately, I'm not shocked with how that series ultimately did end up playing out for your Oakland Athletics. You always ultimately hoped that maybe they could pull off some sort of spoiler thing, but again, with how that squad's been this year and with how our squad's been this year, again, whole hell of a lot to ask for this A's team to do. After an off day, of course, after that series in Houston wrapped up, the Oakland Athletics would come home for what would be their final full 6-game homestand of the 2022 season. They, of course, have 3 more games scheduled at home on October the 3rd through the 5th, but we'll, of course, touch base on those 5 days from now when we preview upcoming games during show number 320. But as far as an actual full-length homestand of 6 games or more, this being the final one of the 2022 season that we're about to touch base on now. Again, off day for the A's going down on Monday, September the 19th, before they began the first of 3 games against another longtime AL West rival, a team that pretty much is still trying to compete for a potential playoff spot in 2022, going through the wild card route pretty much at this point. A team, of course, that a longtime friend of our shows, Dre206, happens to root for, and a team that hasn't sniffed the playoffs since 2001 when they won 116 games. That, of course, is the squad from the 206, the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle Mariners, coming in to Oaktown for a 3-game series at Rickey Henderson Field at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. Here is what went down in Game 1 of that 3-game set, the first game of that series, of course, being played on Tuesday, September the 20th. Seattle would score first in that contest on that Tuesday night, just a week ago, as they would score the first run of the game in the top of the 2nd inning. Unfortunately for the squad from the 206, that would be the only run that they would score in this one. Also, unfortunately for them, they wouldn't be able to keep the A's off the board before the night was over with, as all 4 of the Elephants' runs in this one came in the bottom of the 5th inning. So, yeah, basically all the scoring done in the first 5 innings of the contest and nothing the rest of the way out after that. But it results in a W for your Oakland Athletics over the Seattle Mariners as they win by the final of 4-1. Oakland 4 runs, 7 hits, 2 errors. Seattle 1 run, 1 hit, 1 error in that contest on September the 20th. J.P. Sears picking up the win for Oaktown as he improves to 6-2 on the year. Castillo taking the loss for the Mariners in that one as he falls to 7-6 on the year. Acevedo picks up save number 3 of 2K22. No ding-dong doodles for the M's in this one. The lone homer for your Oakland Athletics coming off the bat of Tony Kemp as he hits his 7th homer of the year in this one. Winning pitcher J.P. Sears went 5 innings, 1 hit given up, 1 earned surrender, that run being unearned that he gave up. 3 walks, he punched out 7 in those 5 innings of work before giving way to Payamps, who pitched an inning, Puck, who also pitched an inning, Sear, who also pitched an inning, and of course Acevedo, who pitched the 9th and final inning of the contest to earn his 3rd save of the season. So, hey, great to see them get a win. Great, obviously, if you're an A's fan. If you're someone like our boy Dre206, who's a fan of the Mariners and is sitting there hoping that they aren't about to have the wheels fall off the wagon here in the final weeks as they try to jockey for some playoff position, you're probably a little pissed off seeing that outcome, and probably ultimately would have that same feeling as well when things were said and done in game number 2, as Dick Callahan used to say when he was announcing whoever was shooting 3 throws for Warriors back in the day, and probably if I remember, if he did that for Cal men's and women's basketball as well. Yeah, if you were a Mariners fan, if you didn't like what happened during Game 1, even though it wasn't that big of a score difference in Game number 2, yeah, you were going to be happy still with the result of this one. Here's what went down in Game 2 of this three-game series between the 206 and the 510, which, of course, went down on Wednesday, September the 21st. The first runs in this one would not be scored until the 7th inning. And good news, it wasn't the Mariners that scored first when that 7th inning started to unfold. It was your Oakland Athletics, as they would end up scoring their only 2 runs of that entire game in that bottom of the 7th inning. The Mariners would get on the board before this was all said and done. Unfortunately for them, and luckily for Oaktown, they only got 1 run during the course of this contest, and that lone run came in the top of the 8th inning as the A's hold on to a 1-run lead and basically end up taking the series with a quick 2 consecutive games won against the Mariners, as they, of course, win Game 2 of the 3-game set back on September 21st by the final of 2-1. Oakland, 2 runs, 6 hits, no errors. Seattle, 1 run, 4 hits, and 1 error during that September the 21st contest. James Cpl got the win in that one, improving to 4-9 on the season, while Swanson took the loss for Seattle. He falls to 2-1 on the year. And AsFAnRAdio working another game out here as he gets another save, bringing his total of saves on the year to 4. Home runs in this one on the Seattle side of things, you only had 1 homer being hit by the Mariners, that coming off the bat of Torrens as you went deep for the 2nd time this year. No home runs for your Oakland Athletics in this one. James Cpl, who of course we mentioned got the W in this one, ended up doing something that many of you, of course, who have been following and listening to the show since probably roughly, I'm going to say somewhere between about the end of July and roughly the middle of August, I've been really getting on Cpl about the fact of him not being able to make at least it through 6 innings, which is considered a quality start. Obviously, I like to see guys go more than 6 innings because that's what I'm used to from when I grew up as a youngin' watching baseball with these pitchers that they used to have out there back in the day. And I'm not the only one. Chris Townsend's been bringing it up a lot over on A's Cast, and he even mentioned it on the pregame before this game happened. So it was nice to see Cpl finally meet some expectations for not just myself, but our good friend Towney as well, as Cpl ended up going 7 strong innings in that win that he got back on September the 21st. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits given up, no runs surrendered, 1 walk, and 6 punch-outs for Cpl in his 7 innings of work. Puck pitching an inning to get his 20th hold of the year, and of course AsFAnRAdio pitching the 9th and final inning of the year to get his 4th save of the year. So again, great to see Cpl get through, not just through the 6th, but through the 7th as well. Towney and I are happy to see that, but I'm pretty sure, and I wouldn't be surprised if Towney probably shares and thinks this as well as I do. Going to need to see a little bit more of that from Cpl before I'm ultimately sold on him still being a starter. Obviously, you don't have to go out there and pitch 7 innings the rest of the way out or over the course of however many starts you make the rest of the way, but give me 6. Give me what's looked at as a quality start, and maybe I'll have some hope for you again going into spring training of next year. Other than that, if you revert back to not being able to make it past the 5th inning, then I'm going to go back to thinking that maybe you should be in the bullpen. But, hey, great to see you go through 7 innings cap, but, again, need to see a little bit more of that going forward from you when you get on the bump. One more game left to recap in that 3-game series between longtime AL West rivals, as the Seattle Mariners and the Oakland Athletics would lock horns one final time in this 3-game series. That matchup, of course, going down just a few days ago, back on Thursday, September the 22nd, which, of course, was when we were originally supposed to do this show, and then stuff came up on my end. Had to reschedule it, and that's why we're, of course, coming at you right here, right now. But here's what went down, of course, on that Thursday afternoon down the road here from Dub 6 Studios at the Oakland Coliseum. Seattle would score first in the final game of this 3-game series when they would score the first 3 runs of the contest in the top of the third inning. They would hold on to that 3-0 lead until the bottom of the fifth when the Oakland Athletics would take the lead with a 5-run spot in the bottom of the third. The Mariners would come within one with a single run in the top of the fourth before they would retake the lead with 3 runs in the top of the sixth and then add on to that lead with 1 run in the top of the seventh and their final run of the contest in the top of the eighth. Your Oakland Athletics, unfortunately, didn't score jack diddly squat after that 5-run bottom of the third as they end up dropping the final game of this 3-game series to Seattle by the final of 9-5. Seattle 9 runs, 11 hits, no errors. Oakland 5 runs, 9 hits, and 1 error when this one was all said and done this past Thursday over here at the stadium in the Deep East. Boyd getting the win for the Mariners in this one as he improved to 2-0 on the year. Snead taking the loss for the A's in this one as he falls to 1-1 on the year. Home runs in this contest, the lone one being hit by the Mariners in this one came off the bat of Kielenick as he hit his 5th home run of the year. No home runs in the contest for your Oakland Athletics in this one back on Thursday the 22nd. Martinez getting the start. He went 5 innings, 6 hits given up, 5 runs surrendered, 5 of those runs being earned. 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He surrendered the lone home run given up by A's pitchers in this contest back on Thursday. You had Snead pitch 2/3 of an inning before he would ultimately end up giving up the lead to Seattle. He, of course, would be tagged with the loss and his second blown save of the season. And then, of course, the rest of the way out, you had Ruiz pitch an inning in the third. Pruitt pitched an inning, and then Keown pitched the final inning of the contest in this one. So the Oakland Athletics, unfortunately, not able to secure a 3-game sweep against their longtime rival from the 206. But, hey, I could take a 2 out of 3. You know, I'm pretty sure A's fans are satisfied with taking 2 out of 3 against Seattle. Folks like my homeboy Dre 206, on the other hand, they're probably not too thrilled with that outcome. As again, you know, you don't want to start seeing, if you're a Mariners fan, what potentially looks like the signs of things, you know, falling off the wagon with the squad supposed to be in a playoff hunt. And our homie, of course, me and him touched bases a little bit after the series was getting ready to wrap up, and he was really annoyed with how that 3-game series played out. He's also finally getting around to getting back on the air with his own podcast, so got to check in with him. He sent me a link for the recording of his first episode, and I got to still check that out, but I also want to make sure if he's put that out publicly yet, so that way some of you out there can get a little taste of this kind of action from a different point of view, and an individual that we can tell y'all out there, especially if you A's fans out there know any Mariner fans, may want to give them the heads up to start getting ready to check out our good friend Dre 206 as he gets ready to get a podcast back up and running on his end of things. So, yeah, he's not happy with what happened between the A's and the Mariners here in Oakland a couple days ago, but myself, and I'm pretty sure the rest of you out there, even with the rooted in straight donkey ass of a season, can take a little bit of happiness and pride with, I guess, winning 2 out of 3 games against a longtime AL West Division rival. Excuse me, right there's got a little bit of air bubble, I guess, caught up in my throat there. Quick reminder, there is a fan question of the night response sitting out there if y'all haven't had a chance to do so. It's been sitting out there since about 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the retweet or repost, depending on if you're on Facebook or Twitter, went up about 5 minutes into when the show started. So, yeah, you haven't had a chance to do so, Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter to submit your responses to the fan question of the night. Just follow the directions on the post or tweet, submit your responses, and I will, of course, read all of y'all's responses during the final segment of tonight's show. For this edition of A's Fan Radio, we, of course, want to hear your thoughts on Stephen Vogt announcing his retirement at the end of the 2022 season. So, again, get those in by heading over to either Facebook.com/AsFanRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. We come back, we will recap the other 3 games that took place during that final 6-game homestand at the Oakland Coliseum. Not the final set of games at the Coliseum, obviously, so they got 3 more that will end out the 2022 campaign at home. But again, we won't touch bases on those until 5 days from now on the next edition of the show. series with the Mets that we, of course, will be recapping for you when we come back from this next break tonight. And, of course, we'll also take a look at what the A's have on tap next between now and the next edition of the show as they, of course, get ready to go down to SoCal for a 3-game series with the Anaheim Devils. That and, of course, a lot more coming at you before this one is over with, and still waiting to see if whenever the main man, the boss man, is going to call in on here or not to join me with this one, so I'm keeping my eyes open for that as well. We'll be right back at you here in a bit on show number 319 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. Fans, it's your favorite towel tally. Yeah, I know I haven't been by in a while. Figured I may as well drop in before this one was over with. You're, of course, listening to your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. And don't forget, of course, don't forget to bring a towel. Let's get high. Yeah, hey, it's been a minute since that annoying-ass towel has dropped in and left a puff of smoke lying around Dub 6 Studios. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to wrap things up here in the first half of tonight's broadcast, since we've obviously gone way more than over an hour before wrapping up the first half of tonight's show. It is, of course, show number 319 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics. That's, of course, 319th broadcast since yours truly brought AFR back from a 4-year hiatus back in 2011. Show number 319 of A's Fan Radio. It is, of course, the legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown, one half of what's become known over the last 9 years as the Dynamic Duo. I'm still waiting on the other half of the Dynamic Duo, the main man, the boss man, to, of course, hit me up on the cellular phone from the boss pad over in Alameda. He was supposed to call back around 8:30, so I'm starting to wonder if maybe whatever he had going on took a little bit longer than planned. Maybe he had a little drinky drink. Maybe he did some medical research. Maybe he passed out. All of those have happened before sometimes where he's not ended up calling in. So we'll have to obviously wait and see what happens and if my co-host will be joining me or not before the evening is over with. As we wait to see what happens with that, let's go ahead and continue on down the road and get ready to wrap up things here in the final segment of the first half of tonight's broadcast, as we, of course, still have one more series of games to recap for your Oakland Athletics, along with, of course, previewing an upcoming series that will take place between now and when show number 320 of the broadcast smacks you all upside the head 5 days from now at noon this upcoming Friday. That series that we still have left to recap, going to come at you right here, right now, as, of course, a couple days ago on Friday the 23rd, the A's beginning the final 3 games of that final full homestand of 6 games or more, because, again, they got 3 more games in Oakland from the 3rd to the 5th of October, which we will be previewing when we come at you again this upcoming Friday. The final 3 games of this series of games that wrapped up here in Oakland between Friday and today against a team that will be going to the playoffs. Obviously, going to be interesting to see if they end up being the division winner or if the team that's behind them is able to sneak in there and take the division from under their nose. That team, of course, by the way, being the squad that's the current defending World Series champions. But for the most part, it's been the New York Mets that have been sitting kind of, per se, in the driver's seat in the NL East for most of the year. They, had a big lead at one point and have slowly, kind of with some janky play as of late, have kind of allowed the Atlanta Braves to work their way back into the hunt. But one way or the other, the Mets are going to be playing postseason baseball in 2022. Here's what went down in Game 1 of that 3-game series between your Oakland Athletics and the New York Mets, with Game 1, of course, taking place on Friday, September the 23rd at Rickey Henderson Field at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. First runs of the game would come in the top of the third, and that, of course, would mean that the New York Mets scored first in this one as they would drop a 3-run spot on Oakland's starting pitcher in this contest. 3 runs, again, being scored by the Mets to begin things in this one in the top of the third. They would then add on to that lead with a 5-run spot in the top of the fifth and score what would ultimately be their final run of the contest, which was a single run in the top of the seventh. Your Oakland Athletics finally decided to get on the board in this one when they scored a single run in the bottom of the seventh inning, and what would unfortunately be their final run of the contest in the bottom of the eighth. And 2 runs ain't enough to beat 9, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, as your Oakland Athletics drop the first game of this 3-game set to New York by the final of 9-2. New York 9 runs, 13 hits, no errors. Oakland 2 runs, 6 hits, and no errors in this one. Former Oakland Athletic Chris Bassett, who of course was traded to the Mets before spring training began, got the W facing off against his own squad and kind of had a little chip on his shoulder to want to get the W in this one, as he apparently, quote unquote, didn't want his former Oakland Athletics teammates to talk crap about him if he ended up getting smacked around in this, so that ended up not happening. He held his former teammates at bay, and again, got the W for the Mets in this one as Bassett improves to 15-8 on the year. Good friend of the show, Cole Irvin, being tagged with the loss for Oakland in this one as swerving Cole Irvin falls to 9-12 on the year after this one was all said and done. Home runs for the Mets in this one, their lone home run coming off the bat of Escobar as he hit his 19th home run of the year. Diermis Garcia went deep for the 5th time in 2022 over the course of the brief playing time that he's had here in the second half, and said it for the last couple shows, going to continue to say it again, and I'm not the only one that's been saying this in regards to Diermis. Definitely, seriously, needs to be in the considerations and the talks for the potential starting first baseman's job heading into next season when they begin camp and spring training and all that. And again, he's making a good cost from that and is showing some pretty solid power in that limited playing time that he's had during the times that he's been brought up and down, and during this most recent stretch where he's actually stuck around with the team for a little bit of a while. So again, lone home run for the A's, 5th of the year for Diermis Garcia. Cole Irvin, again, got the start and unfortunately got tagged with the L for the A's when this one was all said and done, falling to 9-12 on the year. Cole only lasted 4 2/3 innings in this one, gave up 11 hits, surrendered 8 runs, all 8 of those runs being earned, 2 walks, 3 punch-outs, and he, of course, gave up the lone ding-dong doodle that the Mariners hit in this contest. Wiles pitched the final 4 1/3 Wiles pitched the final 4 1/3 innings in this one. He would give up 2 hits, 1 run, that 1 run being earned, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts before it was all said and done. Reality, folks, not shocked that happened, and you shouldn't be either that ended up happening. Just, the Mets basically in that game were, as advertised, it's, an offense that pretty much has individuals up and down the lineup that can put up runs at any point in any time when that lineup is into the batter's box. And, it's a squad that has, multiple former Oakland Athletics on it. Chris Bassett, who, of course, started this game. You got Mark Hanna, who signed a free agent deal to go to New York during the offseason, and Sterling Marte, who, of course, only spent basically from the trading deadline on with the A's last year after originally, of course, coming up with the Marlins. He signed a free agent deal to ultimately go play with the Mets for this year as well. Remember if he wasn't in the game. I'm guessing, I'm obviously taking a look here to see if he popped up into things at all at any point. I'm guessing that he's injured right now at this point in time. Obviously, Corporal, you should look that up before the game. But, 3 former A's that are going to be getting a chance to taste playoff baseball one way or another, regardless if it's as the divisional winner or if it's as the, as I burp in mid-sentence there right into y'all's ear, either go into the playoffs as a divisional winner or a wild card winner. This Mets team's going to be going into the postseason. So, yeah, not shocked by the outcome. You shouldn't be either. Yours truly was in the ballpark for that game Friday night. Thanks again, of course, to the Oakland 68s for hooking it up with the tickets. Mrs. was supposed to go with me. Christy, a.k.a. Quitty, was supposed to go, but had stuff come up on her end that caused her to be a late-minute cancellation. I tried to hit up a few individuals that I know out there, folks from the Howard Terminal Waterfront Coalition, see if they wanted to go. But, ended up soloing it, basically, to the park that night. Initially hung out in what many of us from Forever Oakland are now referring to as the Godfather Grizz Jones Clubhouse, which is basically the top part of 237 up by the treehouse. Started up over there and then basically bounced around the ballpark for pretty much the majority of the evening. One of the intro pictures that you saw in there was a picture that I actually took up in the third deck right after sunset, or right as the sunset was starting to wrap up. During Friday's game. Ran into a couple folks as well. It was good to see Vitamin D out there at the yard. Finally got a chance to meet D's wife, and also ran into Jennifer Arbuckle, who's one of the members of the Howard Terminal Waterfront Coalition that myself and a whole bunch of other A's fans from other various groups that have either been around or are around that have been involved in this whole ballpark drama all these years. Another basically super group effort to help push efforts to get that ballpark project done. Hanging out, watching the game, met up in the third deck for a bit, and then ultimately I had to head out because my back decided to be my back, and obviously, of course, had to get a good night, full night's sleep, because I had to get up to Tightwad Hill the next day to help set up for the pregame tailgate for the Cal Arizona game, which of course we'll be recapping during the Bear Raid segment of tonight's show. But so basically got home within enough time to see the fireworks from my back deck, pretty much, because, again, just a quick bus ride away on the 73 from the Coliseum back up here to the Eastmont Hills. So, again, not shocked that the A's got their butts handed to them in the first game of this 3-game series. Let's see if that would be the case yet again in Game 2 of this 3-game set, or if the A's somehow, some way would figure out a way to even the series up at 1 game apiece. Here's what went down yesterday at Rickey Henderson Field at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. Mets would get on the board first with a 3-run spot in the top of the first inning. That 3-0 lead would be short-lived, however, as the A's would take a 1-run lead, with a 4-run spot in the bottom of the first inning. That would be a short-lived lead for the A's, though, as well, as the Mets would tie up the contest with a single run in the top of the second. The A's would take the lead back with a single run in the bottom of the third, and then add on to that lead with a single run in the bottom of the fifth, a single run in the bottom of the sixth, a single run in the bottom of the seventh, and what would be their final 2 runs of the contest in the bottom of the eighth. For the New York Mets, they weren't able to score anything after those first 4 runs over the first 2 innings of the game, as the A's would hold on to get the W and tie the series up at 1 game apiece, winning this contest yesterday by the final of 10-4. Oakland, 10 runs, 14 hits, no errors. New York, 4 runs, 9 hits, no errors in yesterday afternoon's affair. Wadelchuk getting the W in this one as he improves to 1-2 on the season. Jacob deGrom, who looked shaky apparently yesterday, ended up taking the loss for the Mets in this one as he fell to 5-3 on the year. Home runs in this contest, you had 2 coming off the bats of Mets in this one as Pete Alonso hit his 38th of the year. Ventitos hit his first of the year for the Mets as well. Over on the A's side of things, you had Seth Brown hit his 24th of the year, and Cpl, a player who was recently just claimed off waivers from the St. Louis Cardinals by your Oakland Athletics, hit his second homer of the year, first with the A's, obviously 2 combined between here and St. Louis, and I guess potentially anywhere else he might have played at during the course of the season. So, 2 home runs for the Mets, 2 home runs for the A's in this one before it was all said and done. As mentioned, Wadelchuk getting the W for Oakland in this one. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits given up, 4 runs surrendered, all 4 of those runs being earned. No walks, 4 punch-outs. He, of course, ended up giving up both of the home runs that the Mets hit in this one. Pruitt came in for 2 innings, got his second hold of the year, and then you had Puck and Sear each pitch an inning to close things out over the final 2 frames of the contest. So, hey, caps off to the A's. After that performance of basically getting spadankled the night before, nice to see you kind of turn around and spaдаnkle your opponent. Again, an opponent that is pretty much expected to go to the postseason when this bad boy's all said and done in a few weeks after things wrap up on October the 5th. Would the A's be able to manage to take 2 out of 3 against the Mets and shock all of us around here? Or would the straight rooted in donkey assness, let me restart that again. Or would the rooted in straight donkey assness rear its ugly head, per usual, when this series would wrap up? Here's, of course, what went down earlier today in the final of this 3-game series. And this current homestand, the final full homestand of 6 games or more at the Coliseum between your Oakland Athletics and the New York Mets. The Mets would score first in this one with 1 run in the top of the second, and then would add on to that lead with 2 runs in the top of the third and 4 runs in the top of the fourth before the Oakland Athletics would finally get on the board with a single run in the bottom of that 4th inning. Neither team would score anything else between the 5th and the 7th inning. The Mets would drop 5 runs on the A's in the top of the 8th and add on 1 more run in the top of the 9th. The A's would only manage to get 3 more runs before this contest was all said and done, as all 3 of those runs would come in the bottom of the 9th inning, as your Oakland Athletics take the loss and lose the finale of this 3-game series earlier today to the New York Mets by the final of 13-4. New York, 13 runs, 19 hits, no errors. Oakland, 4 runs, 8 hits, 1 error in this one. Max Scherzer picking up the W for New York in this one as he improves to 11-4 on the year. J.P. Sears takes the loss for Oaktown in this one as he falls to 6-3 on the year. Home runs in this one, the Pole Bear going deep again for the second day in a row as Pete Alonso bangs out his 39th homer of the year in the contest. Seth Brown went deep again with his 25th home run, and Capel, yet again, 2 games in a row. He's now sitting on 3 overall over the course of this season. So basically the same 2 guys that homered the day before for the A's homered today, but unfortunately 4 runs not enough to overcome 13 runs as the A's drop the finale of the 3-game series and of course ultimately lose 2 out of 3 to the Mets to close out things at the Coliseum with this 6-game set. Again, as mentioned, there's still 3 more home games left at the Coliseum before the season wraps up on October the 5th, but we'll wait, of course, on previewing those 3 games on the next edition of the show. On tap between now and, of course, the next time we come at you here on AsFAnRadio, said 5 days from now on show number 320, 3 games will have taken place before that noon broadcast on September the 30th. Those 3 games, of course, will all be played down in Anaheim at Angel Stadium as the A's will play their final 3 road games in Anaheim of 2022 against the Anaheim Angels, or, of course, as my co-host Bossman has loved to call them for many, many years, the Anaheim Devils. Game 1 of that 3-game series, of course, will be on Tuesday, September the 27th, as your Oakland Athletics will have an off day tomorrow, September the 26th. Game 1, again, will be on Tuesday, September the 27th, down there at Angel Stadium, a 6:38 p.m. Pacific Standard Time first pitch down there from Angel Stadium. That will be the same start time as well for first pitch during Game 2 of the series, which, of course, will be on Wednesday, September the 28th. So just like the first game of the series, that will be a 6:38 p.m. Pacific Standard Time first pitch. And, hey, the reason why we're doing a noon show later on this week on the 30th is because, hey, the third and final game of that series as well on Thursday, September the 29th, is a 6:38 p.m. First pitch start. So 3 straight night games down there at Angel Stadium between your Oakland Athletics and the Anaheim Angels. A team, of course, that, as always, the experts think are going to blow the water away and somehow compete with the Astros for a playoff spot. And yet again, as it seems to be always the case, the experts got it wrong. With the Angels. Many of us were kind of to some little, sickos-like stance. We're hoping that somehow the A's could overtake the Angels for the worst record in the AL West, but yeah, don't think that's going to happen before the year is over with. But it has been interesting and nice at times to actually see when the A's have beaten up on teams that they've kind of taken advantage of this team, like most of the majors has in 2022. As yet again, like I said, the Angels just not panning out like they were predicted to by the experts, and as it was written on paper that they were predicted to play out. And you basically, including this 3-game set that's going to be going down starting 2 days from now, including that 3-game series in Anaheim, you basically have 6 games left against the Angels before everything's all said and done in 2022, because those final 3 games of the year that are being played in Oakland are going to be obviously against this same Anaheim Angels team that the A's are going to be playing for 3 games in Anaheim this week. But obviously we'll touch bases and preview things with that 5 days from now after we recap this, and of course preview what the A's will be doing before those 3 games go down in Oakland. Basically a little over a week from now. So, yeah, 3 games on tap, as mentioned, between now and when the next edition of A's Fan Radio comes at you. 3 games in Anaheim. Again, be nice to just see us smack them around, take 2 out of 3 down there. Will they do it? We'll have to, obviously wait and see when that series starts on Tuesday, September the 27th. So again, 3-game series between your Oakland Athletics and the Anaheim Angels between now and the next edition of the show on September the 30th. That 3-game series, of course, going down from September the 27th through the 29th. And all 3 of those games will be 6:38 p.m. Pacific Standard Time starts from Angel Stadium in Anaheim. So, yeah, going to be really interesting to see if the A's continue to unleash pain on the Angels like most of the league has this year, or if they continue to play like their typical rooted and straight donkey-ass selves and allow the Angels to somehow take this 3-game set down there in SoCal. Obviously, still waiting on Boss to call in pretty much at this point in time. We're going to have to pretty much now see if it's more of an if he's going to call in than a win at this point. But hey, he does. He doesn't. We can always, of course, try to get him on to do things maybe somehow, some way when we do the noon show on Friday, or maybe I'll just have to get some audio recorded from him to play during the show on Friday. So yeah, we're still waiting to see if or when Boss Man will be potentially or not potentially joining me for this broadcast. So keep your eyes and ears tuned for an update one way or another on that. Obviously, until then, let's go ahead and get ready to do what would basically be the final thing that we do here in the final segment of the first half of the show, which is, of course, take a look at the most recent roster transactions that the Oakland Athletics have made since the last time we came at you here on the show back on September the 15th. We, of course, will begin with taking a look at the recent transactions starting on September the 16th, where you got a couple moves going down for the A's that day, as the A's recalled left-handed pitcher Jared Keon from the Las Vegas Aviators and placed left-handed pitcher Sam Moll on the 15-day injured list on September 16th, as he's, of course, currently recovering from a left shoulder strain. 2 days later, they made a couple of moves again on September the 18th, as they recalled third baseman Jordan Diaz from the Las Vegas Aviators and placed outfielder Ramon Laureano on the 10-day injured list, retroactive to September the 17th, with a right hamstring injury. Many, of course, are suspecting, unfortunately, that's probably we're not going to see Ramon again before the year is over with. So we may not see Ramon again until the spring, or you never know. Maybe, unfortunately, if the A's decide to do any moves in the offseason, God forbid, maybe, he potentially gets sent away. I don't want to see that happen. Many of you out there do it. We all know one individual tied to the last dive bar that definitely doesn't want to see that happen, but we have to accept that until the way things are run and structured and done around here change, that possibility, unfortunately, is on the table. So let's hope that's not the case as far as him getting moved in the offseason, but pretty likely that we aren't going to see him back on the field, unfortunately, for your Oakland Athletics before this year is over with. Just a week left. Things could change. Highly doubt it, but I'm pretty sure that, sadly, we've seen the last of Ramon Laureano in 2022, and what's kind of been a little bit of a unfortunate, not so productive year for him, as he's been basically, sadly, injured on and off for most of the 2022 season. Couple of moves also being made on September the 19th as the A's signed free agent right-handed pitcher Josner Pereira to a minor league contract. They also signed right-handed pitcher Jose Pinto to a minor league contract on the 19th as well. Two moves being made on September the 20th as the A's recalled outfielder Connor Capel from the Las Vegas Aviators after they, of course, claimed him off waivers a few days prior from the St. Louis Cardinals. I think I might have mentioned that on the last show. They, of course, also that day ended up optioning Cody Thomas to the Las Vegas Aviators. September the 23rd, they made three moves overall as they recalled left-handed pitcher Sam Seaman from the Aviators, claimed second baseman Ernie Clement off waivers from the Cleveland Guardians, and then they placed right-handed pitcher Joel Payamps on the 15-day injured list retroactive to September the 21st with a strained lumbar muscle. And then, of course, two moves going down yesterday as the A's activated second baseman Ernie Clement and they designated third baseman Sheldon Noisy for assignment. And, of course, the most recent transaction move that went down today looks like Sheldon ended up clearing waivers as he was outrighted to the AAA Las Vegas Aviators earlier today. And that, of course, wraps up things for the most recent transactions for your Oakland Athletics and also concludes things here on the first half of tonight's broadcast. We, of course, still got the infamous X-rated second half to come your way here in a bit. And we're also still waiting to see if and when Bossman joins me. So maybe we hear from him, maybe we don't. We'll have to obviously wait and see if that ends up happening. If it does, it'll be the first time in a hot while that Bossman's been on the show during the second half of the show instead of the first half. We'll wait and see on that, if that does happen or not. But, of course, obviously still got the MLB standings to do, the Bear Raid segment, and, of course, what's been going on with the Roots. And, of course, read your responses to the fan question of the night during the infamous X-rated second half, which, of course, hey, it's time to remind y'all about that fan question of the night. Again, you haven't had a chance to do so. Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. Look for the poster tweets that say fan question of the night. Just follow the directions that are up there on the poster tweets that went up at either 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or the one that went up at 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Follow the directions, submit your responses. I will read all those responses during the final segment of tonight's show. And, of course, for this edition of the show, we want to hear your thoughts on Stephen Vogt announcing his retirement, which, of course, will take place at the end of the 2022 season. Again, to answer that fan question, Facebook.com/AsFanRadio or at A's_fan_radio. On that note, seventh inning stretch time about to come your way here on show number 319 of A's Fan Radio. Again, when we come back for the infamous X-rated second half of the show, we're going to take a look at what the MLB standings look like at this point in time tonight. We, of course, will check out what Cal football's been up to the last couple of weeks during the Bear Raid segment, see what the Oakland Roots have been up to as well during the Oakland Roots segment, and, of course, we will read off your responses to the fan question of the night and hear my final thoughts tonight before we head on out. And again, hopefully at some point tonight, Bossman checks in. We're still waiting to see what happens in regards to that. So don't go anywhere, folks. Smoke them if you got them. Fire up that medical research. Go grab a cold one from the fridge. We'll catch you on the flip side of the seventh inning stretch here on show number 319 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. It's been a hot while since I busted out the Run Like Hell with the Let's Go Oakland chant that I worked in one time when messing around and editing things when I was going to Laney College back in the day. Always have that one sitting on the back of the mixer here to ready to throw at folks whenever I feel like doing it, and tonight was one of those nights where I felt like doing it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to kick off what has become known here in the 19 years of this broadcast as the infamous X-rated second half of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland athletics. A's Talk from the fans' point of view. It is, of course, show number 319 of AsFAnRAdio. It is the legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown, one half of what's become known on this broadcast over the last 9 years as the dynamic duo. I'm still waiting for the other half of that dynamic duo, the main man, the boss man, to potentially call in and join us before the evening is over with. He was supposed to call originally back around 8:30 p.m., and it's almost 9:50 right now. So I'm pulling up maybe to see if, I don't know, maybe potentially he sent a voicemail and just, or not a voicemail, sent a message and just taking forever, because when I went to hit him up before the start of the show at 8, he had sent me a text to let me know he wasn't going to call in until 8:30, and I literally didn't get that text until I called him at fucking 8 o'clock. So, yeah, end up happening. I guess basically his dad's in town, so that explains potentially why he hasn't called in. So, hey, completely understandable at that point, because I just happened to scroll through there, like I said, to make sure to see that I didn't miss something, and I just now caught the part at the end of his text about calling in at 8:30 that his dad came into town. So, hey, boss, you aren't able to come in, call in. It's completely understandable. Hey, your pops is in town, dude. Go spend time with your dad. We can always wait till Friday to bring you in or record you for action here on the show on Friday if you don't make it on here tonight. So, again, wait to see if boss joins us. But, again, given that his pops is surprisingly in town, doesn't call in, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm not going to be pissed off about it. That's completely understandable, and y'all shouldn't be either. You've all sat through plenty of shows where it's just my loco ass coming at you for the full 2+ hours or under 2 hours that we do this thing, and if it ends up being the same, so be it. On that note, let's go ahead and get the normal shenanigans underway here in the infamous X-rated second half of the broadcast as we take a look at what the current standings look like around Major League Baseball. Obviously, a lot more teams have clinched playoff berths since we last checked in with you, be it either a division spot or still waiting on, obviously, division races to be decided, but have at least clinched playoff berths as we get ready to roll into the last week's plus worth of MLB game action before the playoffs start at the beginning of October. We, of course, will begin with the American League side of the standings first, because your Oakland Athletics have been in the American League since the AL was founded back in 1901. They're a founding member of the American League. And we, of course, will begin in the A's division, the AL West, where it is, of course, the Houston Astros sitting on top of the division. And they, of course, have already clinched the AL West division crown for the 2022 season with a record of 101-53. The Seattle Mariners are in the second place spot in the division right now with a record of 83-69. They are, of course, still in the hunt for a wild card berth at this point in time. The Anaheim Angels are in third with a record of 67-86. The Texas Rangers are in fourth with a record of 65-87. And your Oakland Athletics, ladies and gentlemen, are sitting at the bottom of the West still with a record of 56-97. So, yeah, unfortunately, the possibility of a 100-loss season still looms in the shadows over the heads of your A's before everything is all said and done in 2K22. Let's go ahead and see what the standings look like around the rest of the American League right now. Over in the AL East, the New York Yankees are still in the first place spot in the division. They've clinched the playoff berth, but they have not yet clinched the division at this point in time. And they're the only one of the teams in the playoff hunt over in the AL East that have clinched a playoff spot at this time. So playoff spot clinched for the Bronx Bombers, but not yet the division title at this point in time. Currently at the top of the AL East with a record of 94-58. The Toronto Blue Jays, who were almost within striking distance, literally, of the Yankees a few weeks ago, have fallen back to 8.5 games behind the first place New York Yankees. Toronto currently sitting in that second spot with a record of 86-67. The Tampa Bay Rays are in the third spot, and they kind of also almost got within striking distance as well, but they've fallen down to third, 10.5 games back of the Yankees with a record of 84-69. The Toronto and Tampa Bay are also currently in the hunt, in the mix for the wild card berths over on the AL side. The Baltimore Orioles are in the fourth spot with a record of 79-73. And my guess is probably on the outside looking in. We'll take a look here, obviously, in a bit on how the wild card standings in the AL are shaping up with. We'll get to those, obviously, once we wrap up the standings and the divisions on the AL side. And finally, to wrap up things in the AL East, the Boston Red Sox are in last place with a record of 72-80. Over in the AL Central, the Cleveland Guardians have clinched the AL Central. So not the White Sox, not the Twinkies. It is the Guardians who are your 2022 AL Central champs. Currently a record of 86-67, which means that the White Sox and the Twins are going to have to basically get in through wild card berths if they have any hopes of playing October baseball. The White Sox are currently in the second spot in the Central with a record of 76-77. The Minnesota Twins are third with a record of 74-79. The Kansas City Royals fourth with a record of 63-90. And sitting in last place in the AL Central at 60-92 are the Detroit Tigers. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what the wild card standings are looking like at this point in time. As again, still got about a week's worth plus of games, as final game for the A's is on October the 5th, and I'm guessing and assuming pretty much at this point that pretty much everybody else will be wrapping things up on October the 5th as well. Currently, for the wild card race, the top spot currently belongs to the Toronto Blue Jays, who have a 2.5 game advantage on the top wild card spot. The Tampa Bay Rays sit in the second wild card spot, and the third and final wild card spot currently belongs to the squad in the 206, that of course being the Seattle Mariners. The teams on the outside looking in currently right now are the Baltimore Orioles, who are 4 games back of the final wild card spot, the Chicago White Sox, who are 7.5 back of the final wild card spot, and the Minnesota Twins, who are 9.5 back of that final wild card spot. But the Twins, basically, if they lose one more game, they're not going to have a chance to get into the postseason at all through the wild card berth. And pretty much everybody from Boston on in the AL has been eliminated from the wild card race. So kind of starting to see the final shapes of the AL wild card race taking form. Baltimore kind of still a little bit hopeful. They're 4 games out, maybe a little bit of a chance depending on if Seattle starts to play like how they played in the Oakland series the rest of the way out. The White Sox, they're going to need to basically pick up the pace and hope that they can outperform Baltimore, I guess, over this stretch. Will they do that? Who knows? It's been a team that, on paper, and again, the experts, kind of like with the Angels, thought the White Sox were going to run away with that AL Central this year, and that ended up not happening as guys underperformed and guys also were injured during the course of the season over there on the south side of Chicago for the Pale Hose. Their elimination number from the wild card race is 3 games right now. Baltimore's elimination number is 7, so pretty much between those 3 teams on the outside looking in the AL West, or excuse me, the AL wild card picture right now, Baltimore looks like maybe they'd have the best chance of somehow working in there. But again, really depends on what Seattle does the rest of the way out. And, it kind of also depends, too, on what Tampa Bay and Toronto do the rest of the way out. So going to be really interesting to see if 5 days from now, if some of that is pretty much locked up one way or another with not just the division but the wild card races over on the AL side of things. Let's go ahead and move from the junior circuit to the senior circuit and take a look at the current National League division standings at this point in time. And, of course, obviously, we'll take a look at the wild card standings on the NL side as well. But let's get through the divisional standings before we get to all of that. First things first, let me switch things on my end from the wild card standings back over to the regular season standings, so I'm not looking at a bunch of hoobajaloob. We'll, of course, start off first with the NL East as we begin things with the NL side of things on the standings portion of the broadcast. Currently, both the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves, two teams that are, of course, both in the NL East. Both teams have clinched playoff berths, but neither team has clinched the division yet at this point in time. It's still the Mets sitting on top of the East right now with a record of 97 and 57, as, of course, the Mets just wrapped up taking 2 out of 3 against your Oakland Athletics here at the Coliseum. It's only a 1.5 game lead, though, for New York right now, as at 95 and 58, you got the defending World Series champion Braves a game and a half back of you at this point, and a solid 11.5 game lead on that top wild card spot if they're somehow not able to get back into the mix. So both teams are going to have to be really careful how they play the rest of the way out. Both of them are going to go into the postseason. It's just a question of, during this final week plus, is it going to be the Mets that are going to be the division winner? Are the Braves going to have to try to repeat their World Series championship by going through the wild card round, or will that, kind of hiccups that's happened the last couple of months for the New York Mets somehow bite them in the ass during this final stretch and allow Atlanta to win the division? We'll have to obviously wait and see in regards to that. Rest of the division looks like this right now. Outside of New York and Atlanta, in third place in the East, you have the Philadelphia Phillies with a record of 83 and 69. The Miami Marlins are in the fourth spot with a record of 63 and 90. And sitting in the last place spot with a record of 53 and 99. Yes, shockingly, ladies and gentlemen, there's a team out there with a shittier record than your Oakland Athletics. There's a team that's 1 loss away from 100 wins. We're only 3 losses away, but, still not that much of a difference. But, hey, whoop-de-doo, we're, 3 games better than them, I guess you can say. Yeah. The Washington Nationals are looking a 100-loss season most definitely in the face before this is all said and done. 53 and 99 right now for the last place NL East Washington Nationals. Let's go ahead and take a look at things over on the NL Central side of things right now, as still is really too close of a race to determine things for a divisional winner over in that side of things. And, both these teams, it's a situation where, because of how things are shaping out with the wild card race, one of these teams in the NL Central, if they don't get that division top before the season's up with, that second place team may be SOL'd before it's all said and done on a chance to get into the postseason. We'll have to obviously wait and see what happens with that. Right now, it's the St. Louis Cardinals on top of the Central with a record of 89 and 65. The Milwaukee Brewers are 6.5 games back of the Cardinals right now with a record of 82 and 71, though their elimination number to be able to, compete for the division at this point is down to 3. So, any sort of, combination of that will basically allow St. Louis to take the NL Central crown. But they're still technically kind of alive, but again, 3-game elimination number from Milwaukee to try to have any sort of crack at the division. Otherwise, they're going to have to try to get in through that damn wild card shenanigans. Third place in the Central right now belonging to the Chicago Cubs, who are 67 and 86. Fourth place belongs to the Cincinnati Reds, who are 60 and 93, and sitting in last place in the Central, 3 games away from a 100 loss season. Damn, we might actually see 3 teams with 100 losses or more before the year's over with. That being the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are being the Pittsburgh Pirates, unfortunately, with a record of 56 and 97. That finally brings us to what up until this year had been the wild NL West, and it was for a while the wild NL West early in 2022. Not so much the case recently. It's not really the wild NL West, as the Los Angeles Dodgers pretty much locked down the division with authority after the All-Star break and the trade deadline. They, of course, clinched the division and currently, of course, clinched the best record in the National League, currently sitting on a record of 106 and 47. The San Diego Padres are in the second spot in the West with a record of 85 and 68. Their only chance of getting into the postseason is going to be through the wild card round. San Francisco Giants, who were kind of in the hunt for a while and have just fallen flat down to earth. They're 3 games under 500 at the moment with a record of 75 and 78 in the third place spot, 8.5 out of a wild card at this point in time, and obviously we'll get to the NL wild card standings here in a bit once I wrap up things with the NL. Fourth place in the NL West currently belongs to the Arizona Diamondbacks with a record of 71 and 83, and the fifth and final spot in the not so wild NL West at the end of 2022 is the Colorado Rockies with a record of 65 and 88. We obviously did it on the AL side of things. We're going to go ahead and now do it as well with the NL side of things and take a look at what the wild card standings look like right here, right now, over in the National League. Of course, basically, as mentioned, you've had the the Braves clinch a playoff spot. Mets have clinched a playoff spot. Neither of those teams clinching the division. Obviously, the only team in the NL that's clinched the division spot so far has been the Dodgers. But Mets are going to be in it. Atlanta's going to be in it as well. It's ultimately a wait and see on if the Mets are going to be the division winner and the Braves the wild card, or the Mets are the wild card and the Braves are the division winner. But right now, it's the Atlanta Braves holding on to that top wild card spot at this point in time with an 11.5 game advantage. The San Diego Padres have the second wild card spot, and at this point in time, it's the Philadelphia Phillies that have that third and final wild card spot. Two teams left on the NL side that are on the outside looking in. That, of course, being the Milwaukee Brewers, who are a game and a half out of that final wild card spot with 9 games left before they're eliminated from wild card play. The San Francisco Giants are still technically in the hunt for the wild card, but their elimination numbers down to 2. So pretty sure that when we do the standing recap come Friday, Suckfest will have been eliminated from the postseason, and also be interesting to see if anything else has been locked up as far as some of the other divisions, and kind of just at that point waiting to see what happens with the wild card race the rest of the way out. And that concludes this show's edition of the current standings around Major League Baseball. On that note, let's go ahead and head on into the next break of the night here on show number 319 of A's Fan Radio. But before we get to that break, of course, hey, want to make sure to remind you all yet again that if you haven't had a chance to do so, there is a fan question of the night sitting out there that all you A's gals and A's guys can partake in and respond to. And, of course, yours truly will read off every single one of those responses to the fan question during the final segment of tonight's show, regardless if you submit them through our Facebook page, facebook.com/AsFAnRadio, or if you submit the responses over on our Twitter page. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at A's_fan_radio. Just look for the post or tweet the one up at either 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or at 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Follow the directions, submit your response, and again, I will read your response at the end or during the final segment of tonight's broadcast. And pretty much every show, that's what we try to do, is have a fan question, remind you all about it, and I try to read those fan question responses at the during the final segment of every show. So try to always keep your eyes open in case you don't get a chance to answer this one tonight, or if you're ended up watching the recording of this show. Because obviously, if you're watching a recording of the show on Twitch or YouTube, you can't respond to the fan question at that point because the show's already happened. But for those of you watching live, be sure to get in your responses to the fan question for this edition of the show, which of course is, we want to hear your thoughts on Stephen Vogt announcing his retirement, which will go down, of course, at the end of the 2022 season. Again, to get those responses in, facebook.com/AsFanRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. We come back, it will be Bear Raid time, as we'll go ahead and kick off things on this latest edition of the Bear Raid segment and see what Cal football's been up to since the last time we came at you here, and of course see what they have on tap next weekend on the road. That and still a few more things to come before it's all said and done here on show number 319 of your number one source for everything and anything under Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We got just a little over 2 more segments left to go before this one comes to a close here on twitch.tv/AsFAnRadio. It is, of course, show number 319 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland athletics. A's talk from the fans' point of view since 2003. A's Fan Radio. And it is, of course, the legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown, one half of what's become known on this show over the last 9 years as the Dynamic Duo. Was supposed to be joined around 8:30 p.m. By the boss man, but as I mentioned, of course, during the last segment, happened to catch late that he mentioned that the reason why he was going to call in late was because his dad randomly dropped in and surprised him and is in town. So completely, again, understandable if boss man does not join us. In fact, I'm pretty much going to assume at this point that he will not be joining us. If that changes, though, obviously I'll let you all know and you'll hear him. But yeah, be prepared for it to be another one of those nights where yours truly hosts AFR solo. On that note, let's go ahead and kick on into gear here with things and continue things here in the infamous X-rated second half of the broadcast, where, of course, at this point in time of the year, it's time to cue up that Cal band music and the other music that's become notorious with this subject. As, of course, it is time to check in on the latest that has gone down with California Golden Bear football since the last time we came at you here on AFR. Yep, time once again for another segment edition of the Bear Raid. And, of course, just like the standalone podcast version of the Bear Raid, the segment version of the Bear Raid is, of course, presented to you by the greatest place on planet Earth to watch Cal football for free since 1923, the world-famous Tightwad Hill. Again, as mentioned, we got 2 games to recap for you here on tonight's show. Had the broadcast gone down like it was originally supposed to, we've only would have been recapping 1 game and previewing a game, but obviously with the show getting moved, that ended up changing. So 2 games and 2 game recaps and a game preview coming at you for this edition of the Bear Raid segment. We, of course, begin things on covering things on this edition with the Bear Raid in regards to Cal football with the gameplay and game action that went down last weekend, or more basically, I should say, not as in this past Saturday, but the previous Saturday, back on, what was that, September the 17th? Just want to make sure I have my dates correct here and I'm not screwing things up. Saturday, September the 17th, would see, of course, our University of California Golden Bears play their first road game of the 2022 season, and what, of course, would ultimately end up being their final non-conference game of the 2022 season. That game, of course, being a trip to South Bend, Indiana, to Notre Dame Stadium to, battle it out against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And initially, hey, when the first half of this game wrapped up, many of us were feeling a lot better than we would have been. Before I get into that real quick, and before I forget, I also want to make sure yet again, did this obviously on the last show version of the Bear Raid, but yet again I want to give a shout out to Laval's Pizza over on the north side of Berkeley for hosting myself and a couple other members of the Tightwads for a last-minute watch party that was scheduled to watch this game for those of us that had originally planned to go and watch this game in person but had to obviously cancel those plans at the last minute. So thank you again to Laval's for hosting us back on Saturday, September the 17th. And as of right now, that's probably going to end up becoming the new watch spot or the new watch party spot for Cal football games and any other Cal athletic stuff that Tightwad Hill wants to do. It used to be Pappy's. Pappy's is closed, doesn't exist anymore. So, we'll be probably heading to Laval's now to do that. Now, on to, of course, what went down on the gridiron in South Bend when this game was being played back on September the 17th. When the first half ended, you were feeling pretty good as a Cal fan. Cal was up 10-7 at halftime after neither team put up any points in the first half, or the first quarter, excuse me. You basically had a defensive stalemate for the first 15 minutes of this one. Cal would score 10 in the second quarter. Notre Dame, of course, would only score 7. And, of course, as mentioned, would go into the first half with a 10-7 lead over the Fighting Irish. You still felt pretty good about your chances as well. when the third quarter wrapped up. I mean, yeah, both teams each scored a touchdown in the third quarter, but Cal had a 3-point lead at that point and was up 17-14 with the final 15 minutes of play, getting ready to go down. Unfortunately, it would completely come unraveled for the Golden Bears in the final 15 minutes of play. Obviously, there was a questionable field goal call where ACC sideline judge decided to call Cal for a phantom offsides that apparently it has been determined that call was a bunch of BS. The ref's been punished, suspended, whatever, and the ACC privately apologized to Cal. You know, it's ridiculous. You should go public with that, but, you know, whatever it is, what it is. Ultimately, bottom line, and that wasn't the only questionable call that went down during the course of the game, but those calls, and specifically that bullshit penalty that was an offsides call that wasn't, you know, all that aside, the reality is this was a winnable game for Cal, and Cal blew it in the fourth quarter. You know, regardless of those questionable penalties, Cal still could have won the game, and they did not do that, and ultimately got outscored 10-0 by Notre Dame in the final quarter of play, as after basically controlling the first 3 quarters of this contest, Cal blows it in the final quarter and ends up losing to Notre Dame by the final score of 24-17 at Notre Dame Stadium over in South Bend, Indiana. Leading passer for the Golden Bears in this one was Jack Plummer, who was 16 of 37 for 184 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, a long of 33, and he was sacked 16 times during the course of the contest. Drew Pine, who's the backup quarterback for the Fighting Irish, he got the start for Notre Dame in this one, and while their starter is recovering from an injury, he was 17 of 23 for the Fighting Irish in this one for 115 yards. He threw 2 touchdown passes, had a long of 36, and he was only sacked twice by the Cal defense over the course of the 4 quarters in this one. Leading rusher for your California Golden Bears in this one, top running back in this one was DeCarlos Brooks, who had 5 attempts for 45 yards, no touchdowns. Overall leading rusher was quarterback Jack Plummer, who had 81 rushes on 12 attempts, a long of 24, and he ended up scoring the lone rushing touchdown for the Golden Bears in this one. Notre Dame side of things, Audrice Easttime was their top rusher, 18 attempts for 76 yards, a long of 14, and he had the lone rushing touchdown for the Fighting Irish in that contest on the 17th. Leading receiver for Cal, Jeremiah Hunter, 5 receptions, 66 yards, a long of 33. He had no touchdown receptions in this one, the lone touchdown reception being caught by J. Michael Sturviant, who had 4 receptions for 61 yards and a long of 18 for the Golden Bears. Leading receivers for Notre Dame, Chris Teree had 5 receptions for 44 yards, a long of 21, and a receiving touchdown. The other of the 2 receiving touchdowns for Notre Dame being caught by Michael Mayer, who also had 2 receptions overall for a total of 10 yards and a total of 6. So, regardless of how I feel about that offsides penalty that clearly, obviously, now has been confirmed that was not an offsides penalty, and a few other calls out there that I saw people point out or that we saw while we were at Laval's. That aside, the Bears should have won this game. The Bears easily could have won this game. They had momentum on their side for basically 3/4 of the damn contest. And then, in prototypical Sicko's lovable loser Bear fashion, crapped it away in the final 15 minutes of play. It just upsets me when games like that happen where, you know, again, Cal should have won this. They didn't. Had to be, unfortunately, reminded that Bill Musgrave's the offensive coordinator by my main man, the boss man, which obviously annoyed the hell out of me and got me mad. And obviously, if things didn't play out better this past yesterday, yours truly would have started calling for one Bill Musgrave's head again. And there was a possibility of it as, of course, the California Golden Bears came back to UC Berkeley yesterday for their homecoming matchup in a contest that over the last decade has usually itself been a damn sickos contest, and that is, of course, homecoming being a matchup between your California Golden Bears and the Arizona Wildcats. Again, a matchup that, just last 10 years, it's been ridiculously, stupid. Cal either barely winning, the Wildcats coming back when Cal's basically had controlling leads, or just, flat-out ridiculousness like last year's quote-unquote COVID Bowl ended up going down. So, obviously, many of us hoping that would end up not being the case when the contest went down yesterday. It kind of unfortunately had the look initially that it was going to be another typical Arizona-Cal sickos matchup. Cal actually got outscored 14-7 in the first quarter of play in this contest against the Wildcats, a team that, by the way, has basically 50 transfers on that roster now. So, still kind of, not as bad as they were last year. They were horrible last year. They're, sitting at 500 right now after, of course, this game ended up wrapping up, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Arizona sitting on top after the first quarter of play, ahead by the score of 14-7. Second quarter of play, Cal would outscore Arizona, though it would only be by 14 points, 14-10 scoring-wise in the second quarter of play. So Cal able to go up at the half. Let's see here, just to do my math here correctly. Cal would be up at the half. They'd be up at halftime. Or wait, no, they trailed at half. Trying to sit here and do the math here correctly. 21. Okay, yeah, my bad. They trailed by 3 at the half. They were down 24-21 when the first half wrapped up. And then things would change the second half for the California Golden Bears, as they would score 14 points in the third quarter and 14 points as well in the fourth and final quarter of play. The Wildcats would only be able to manage a touchdown in the final quarter of play, as they wouldn't put up anything on the board during the third quarter in this contest, as California Golden Bears hold on to get the W in this one and defeat the Arizona Wildcats by the final score of 49-31. So, a game that definitely early looked like it might be another one of those unfortunate, back and forth games that ends up looking ugly for Cal. Luckily, it didn't. 7 touchdowns, though not really happy with the 31 points given up. But, hey, at the end of the day, I guess really just it's the W that matters in this one. Once again, final score in that contest, California Golden Bears 49, Arizona Wildcats 31. Individual stats for this one: leading passer for the Golden Bears once again was Jack Plummer, 18 of 28 for 244 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, a long of 37, and he actually was not sacked at all in this contest. Leading passer for the Wildcats was Jaden DeLora, who was 27 of 45 for 401 yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw 2 picks, a long of 32, and he was sacked twice in this contest. Though I'm pretty sure that obviously the biggest talking point of this game was the leading rusher for your Golden Bears, who is freshman Jaden Ott. 19 attempts for 274 yards. Rushing for the freshman in this one. 3 rushing touchdowns for Ott and a long of 73. Basically came within about 40-plus yards of, nearing the all-time single-game rushing record, which, of course, is 311 by Javid Best. Again, 19 attempts, 274 yards for Jaden Ott in this one. He got 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 of the 4 rushing touchdowns that the Bears scored in this one. The other rushing touchdown was scored by DeCarlos Brooks, who had 10 attempts for 33 yards and a long of 8. Leading rusher for the Wildcats was Michael Wiley, 14 attempts for 84 yards. And had 1 of the 2 rushing touchdowns for the Wildcats, the other one being scored by Jahona Coleman. And leading receivers for your Golden Bears in this one, top receiver was Jeremiah Hunter, 5 receptions for 82 yards. He had 1 of the 3 touchdown receptions for the Golden Bears in this one. The other 2 touchdown receptions being split up between J. Michael Sturvdeviant and Kaliki Latua. Leading receiver for the Wildcats in that contest yesterday afternoon in Strawberry Canyon was Jacob Cowing, 7 receptions for 133 yards, and one of the 2 Wildcat receiving touchdowns. The other touchdown scored by Arizona in this one was scored by Tatario McMillan. And, so, hey, glad that Cal got the win. Obviously, would have preferred to not see 31 points given up on the defensive side of things, and that was a situation, obviously, that if you had the game on the radio, we actually finally had access to a radio to have the great Joe Starkey grace us with his presence on Tightwad Hill and what, of course, is Starkey's last stand and final season doing play-by-play for Cal football over on 860 KGO. Starkey, and also, by the way, Starkey even knew as well as we did that given the past history of this matchup, even when Cal took the lead at one point, 42-24, Starkey was even like, this one might not be over until the final, whistle goes off in that one. And, would prefer not to see 31 points given up by your defense, but hey, it happens. You got the win, but obviously you got other opponents within the conference that you play like this, man, you may be giving up more than 31 points. But hey, end of the day, W's a W. The California Golden Bears currently sitting on a 3-1 record and currently 1-0, by the way, in Pac-12 play. And, of course, given that this is the first game since Pac-12 play started, we will take a look at the early Pac-12 conference standings here in a little bit. But before we get to that, obviously, one game on tap between now and the next time. Well, actually, we'll have done another show before this game goes down, so we may actually end up skipping over doing a Bear Raid segment this week, or maybe I'll check in on what's going on with another Bear Raid sport, or maybe remind y'all about this game happening. But the next game on tap for you California Golden Bears will be a road matchup on Saturday, October the 1st, and that, of course, will be at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can catch that game on the Pac-12 Network or on KGO 810 a.m. as the California Golden Bears will head up to Washington for a road matchup with the Washington State Cougars. Again, Cal versus Washington State at Martin Stadium in Pullman, Washington. That, again, will be this upcoming Saturday, October the 1st, 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can catch that game on TV on the Pac-12 Network, or, again, you can also catch the game on the radio and listen to the loud, booming voice and what is, of course, the final season of Joe Starkey on the radio over on KGO 810. Alrighty, on that note, as I said, we're going to take a look at the standings in the Pac-12 for the first time here in 2022. Obviously, if it'll actually let me go to the Pac-12, because I know how sometimes I click on some of these things, it'll just go to a completely random thing. There we go at this point in time. No, that doesn't have it either. God dang it, man. I hate when it does this shit. So went to a site, doesn't have it. Now I got to sit here and go to damn ESPN.com to pull that up. I should have known better than to just go with the first page that popped up on Google. So bear here with me real quick. Obviously, at this point in time, overall, as I wait for the damn standings to load for the Pac-12 conference over on ESPN, as far as things go with Cal football at the moment, on their side of things, they're 3-1 overall. They're 1-0 in conference play so far here early in the 2022 season. They are undefeated at California Memorial Stadium so far in 2022. Perfect 3-0 when the Bears, of course, are playing at home in Berkeley. Only one road game so far for the Golden Bears at this point in time, that, of course, being that 24-17 loss that could easily have been a W if Cal plays a little better in that fourth quarter and some other factors don't play into things. So, yeah, team that could easily be looking at an undefeated record right now, but unfortunately is not the case. But, hey, I'll take a 3-1 record here early in the 2022 season. But, again, defense is going to need to lock it up going the rest of the way out, because there's certain teams out there, the big one of my concern being when we have to face USC later on in the year, November 5th. You're playing like that with a defense like that, you're going to give up way more than 31 points against SC. Pac-12 conference standings at this point in time right now, early in the 2022 NCAA football season. It's the UC Trojans on top of the conference right now, the 6th-ranked USC Trojans, I should say, with a record of 2-0 in conference play. Overall, they're 4-0. The UCLA Bruins are in that second spot with a record of 1-0 in conference play. They're 4-0 overall. The 15th-ranked Washington Huskies are also 1-0 in conference play. They're 4-0 overall. Your California Golden Bears sit 4th right now in the Pac-12 conference at a record of 1-0 in conference play and an overall record of 3-1. After them are the 13th-ranked Oregon Ducks, who are 1-0 in conference play, 3-1 overall. The Utah Utes are, 6 currently is where the Utah Utes sit in the conference, and they're the 12th-ranked team in the nation right now. They're also 1-0 in conference play, and overall are 3-1 so far this year. After that is a bunch of winless teams in the conferences. You got the Oregon State Beavers, who are 0-1 so far in conference play overall, though they are 3-1. Washington State, who of course Cal will play this upcoming Saturday, October the 1st, they're 0-1 in conference play as well, but overall they have a record of 3-1. The Arizona Wildcats, who of course just lost Cal yesterday, are 0-1 in conference play. They're 2-2 overall. The Arizona State Sun Devils, which of course is an alma mater of one of my nieces, they're 0-1 so far in conference play. They're 1-3 overall, and of course Herman Edwards just left the coaching gig down there, so already coaching turmoil early in the Pac-12 season. The Colorado Buffaloes are in the second-to-last spot in the Pac-12 conference with a record of 0-1. They're 0-4 so far overall this season, and Stanford is 0-2 in conference play, and they're 1-2 overall so far in 2022. So that's how things are looking like so far for the standings in the Pac-12 Conference very early in the 2022 season. So, hey, nice to see Cal football near the top. It'd be interesting to see how that all would be shaped up again if they were undefeated. But again, hey, I'll take a 3-1 record, even though it easily could have been a 4-0 record. Just continue to fire on all cylinders on the offensive side of the ball. Because, hey, you put up 49 points a game. If you can repeat that performance from yesterday the rest of the way out, you should win a decent amount of those games the rest of the way out against your Pac-12 opponents. But defense has got to lock things down a lot better and not be giving up 30-plus points a game to opponents the rest of the way out. And that concludes this Cal football recap and preview for this edition of the show, which means, hey, we are done with this show's edition of the Bear Raid segment. And again, just like the full-on podcast version of the Bear Raid, the segment edition of the Bear Raid is, of course, brought to you by the greatest place on planet Earth to watch Cal football for free since 1923. Yes, that is, of course, the 99-year-old pile of dirt that overlooks California Memorial Stadium, known as Tightwad Hill. And, of course, for those of you that are interested in ever checking out the full podcast edition of the Bear Raid presented by Tightwad Hill, be sure to check out more info on that by visiting facebook.com/TightwadHillOfficial. Follow things on Twitter at TightwadHill23. We currently have a temporary website, or temporary page, I should say, set up for the Bear Raid on the AsFAnRadio website, which, of course, you can find at AsFANRadio.com/the Bear Raid presented by Tightwad Hill. Live broadcasts for the Bear Raid take place right here on this same channel where you're watching AsFAnRadio right now, that of course being twitch.tv/AsFAnRadio. And just like with the past editions of AFR, you can catch all past editions of the podcast version of the Bear Raid over on AFR's YouTube channel at youtube.com/C/AsFAnRadio. Final break. Finally getting ready to hit you all upside the heads here in a bit, which means it's also time for the final fan question reminder of the night here on AsFAnRadio. So last chance here to get in your responses before the final segment of the evening hits y'all upside the heads here in a bit. Though you will kind of get like a second to last warning before I get into the Roots segment. But hey, just in case, man, this is technically your official final reminder to get in those responses to the fan question of the night by heading over to either Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio over on Twitter. Submit your responses by using either the post or tweet that went up at 5 p.m. or the one that went up at 8:05 p.m. Follow the directions, submit your responses, and I, of course, will read those responses once I wrap up the Roots segment here, or the Roots recap in or the Roots segment during the final segment of tonight's show. Fan question of the night, of course, for show number 319. If you somehow missed it all the way up to this point in time, or if you're just now tuning in or haven't made it over to Facebook or Twitter yet, we want to hear y'all's thoughts on Stephen Vogt announcing that he will retire at the end of this season. Again, to get those answers into that fan question, make your way over to either Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio or at A's_fan_radio. Final break of the night coming at you. Final segment of the night as well will be coming at you after that, as we, of course, will check in on the latest with the Oakland Roots. I will read your responses to the fan question of the night. And, of course, after that, lead y'all on out here with my final thoughts of the night. We'll be right back at you here in a bit for the conclusion of show number 319 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, A's Fan Radio. All right. Let's go ahead and get this final segment following a instrumental Rick roll of y'all underway before we get ready to close up shop here on our Twitch channel. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we get set to do the final segment on show number 319 of your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics. A's talk, of course, from the fans' point of view since 2003. It is A's Fan Radio. It is show number 319, and it is, of course, the legally 5150 Cpl Oaktown, one half of the dynamic duo who ultimately, it looks like, ended up doing this entire show by himself, unless somehow miraculously Boss Man decides to randomly blow up the line and shut up Ben here during the final segment of tonight's show. But as I mentioned, not expecting it at this point, as his dad decided to surprise him and dropped into town tonight. So again, completely understandable if he doesn't call in for this edition of the show. So, yeah, it is what it is. Hopefully he's able to join us on Friday. But given the fact that it's a noon show, I may have to see what things look like on his end and may have to obviously set up to record some audio and get him into the show. But, yeah, one way or another, I'm going to try to make sure somehow, some way, Boss Man is part of the action when we do our next show 5 days from now. But hey, that's 5 days from now. We still got a segment on this show to wrap up before that comes at us 5 days from now. So yeah, let's get show number 319 underway before we kick back, relax, and do whatever y'all are going to do for the next 5 days before we do it all again Friday at noon. Beginning things, of course, here in the final segment of tonight's show is the latest and greatest with our local professional soccer team that's a part, of course, of the Western Conference of the USL Championship. That, of course, is none other than the Oakland Roots Sports Club. As we go and take a look at what they've been up to since the last time we came at you here on the show. And obviously they have one game on tap between now and the kind of, I guess, the next time we come at you, but not really, because of the fact that we're coming at you again 5 days from now. But probably what I'll end up doing with the Bear Raid, just like I'll be doing with the Bear Raid segment, I'll probably go over and recap things with the upcoming game for Cal again. I'll probably end up doing the same thing with this contest, or this upcoming Saturday's contest for the Oakland Roots, because there is additional stuff in regards to that final regular season home game that I'm just waiting to here get finalized and all that pertain to all that, and I'll kind of touch bases on a little bit when we get to that point in time. But first things first, let's go ahead and take a look at the two games that have gone down for the Roots since the last time we came at you. The first of those games, of course, was the most recent home contest for the Oakland Roots Sports Club, as they, of course, hosted the developmental team of the MLS's New York Red Bulls, a team that's just simply titled New York Red Bulls 2. You know, again, I don't understand why the MLS teams didn't do a better job of naming these squads that are supposed to be their developmental teams. I mean, couldn't you give these teams some original names instead of them being, hey, let's have the parent team's name with 2 at the end? Could have done better with that. Do better, MLS. You can come up with better names than that starting next year. But yeah, Oakland Roots versus Red Bulls 2 going down, of course, at the Laney College Football Stadium last Saturday, September the 17th. Basically, over the course of 90-plus minutes of play on the pitch, you only had 1 goal scored between either club. And the good news, of course, being that lone goal being scored by the Oakland Roots as the Iceman struck yet again. Iceman's just been on fire for the Roots, the leading scorer for the Roots in 2022. And again, 1 goal is all that would be needed for the Roots to pick up 3 points when this one was all said and done last Saturday as they defeat those New York Red Bulls 2 by the final of 1-0. After that, of course, week would go by. Last Saturday, which of course would be yesterday, would come and go, and the Roots would be on the road yesterday in Colorado for a road match against Colorado's, let me make sure I got these damn team names right here, taking on Colorado Springs Switchback FC, a team that's kind of currently sitting up in the upper portion of the standings in the USL Western Conference, or the Western Conference of the USL, I should say. So, kind of a team that kind of already has a potential shot of getting into the postseason, facing off against an Oakland Roots squad that's, still on the outside looking in, but in that first spot that's on the outside looking in, they're 1 spot away. They were 1 spot away going in to this game from the 7th and final playoff spot. And basically, when everything was all said and done, that would still be the case. They would still be in that spot that's on the outside looking into that 7th and final playoff spot. It's like nobody in the conference wants that damn last playoff spot. And still so far, looking at the standings, we'll get to those in a bit, still at this point in time, only 2 teams have clinched playoff spots in the Western Conference of the USL. So you still got positions 3 through 7 that need to be determined out here over the course of basically 3 games left for, the Roots, and basically probably I would say that's roughly the case for probably the rest of these USL teams as well. When it was all said and done yesterday on the road in Colorado Springs, it would end up in a 1-1 draw for your Roots against the Switchbacks. So kind of a little unfortunate tasting of the tying team that this squad was early in 2022, which obviously has kind of been a big factor on why they've been kind of on the outside looking into this playoff hunt for most of the year. But shockingly some way, here they are, still with 3 games basically left to play. 1 home game, 2 and then 2 road games to close out things in the regular season. So 3 games left to go, and the Roots are still in the hunt. It's going to be really interesting and crazy to see how ultimately that plays out. Myself and others, we obviously do hope that the Roots are able to somehow get in there during these final 3 games and get that final playoff spot. But as I mentioned before last show, to echo the statements of others out there, even if we don't get to the postseason this year in the USL Championship, do the one thing that we were all planning on doing even with a playoff appearance, and that is continue to push and expand support for this Oakland Roots brand. Next upcoming game for the Oakland Roots, and of course, again, as mentioned, I will probably touch bases on things with this again 5 days from now on the next edition of the show. But the next game for your Oakland Roots is their final home regular season home game of the 2020-22 season, which, of course, will be a 7 p.m. kickoff on the pitch over at the Laney College Football Stadium on Saturday, October the 1st, against the Birmingham Legion. Of course, is Fam Appreciation Night. Basically, the Roots take on Fan Appreciation Night, but instead of calling it Fan Appreciation Night, they're calling it Fam Appreciation Night. And, of course, if you weren't able to get a ticket before today, you're basically SOL'd at this point. You're going to have to get tickets from a scalper or have somebody maybe gift you tickets for that October the 1st game because it is sold out. So the final couple of games for the Roots ending in sellouts, which it's great to see games sell out, even though it'd be nice to see, more than, 6,000 out there. But again, you're, limited by, how many people you're able to hold over there at Laney College, which is, again, why the Roots are taking the steps to find a spot for a temporary venue and then ultimately a permanent venue for not just them, but for the Oakland Soul and Project 510 as well. Here in Oakland. But, until that happens, obviously you make do with what you got. And, those 6,000 still sound like, 10, 15,000 because, hey, that's just how we are. That's how Oakland crowds have always been for the teams they support. So, yeah, final home game of the regular season for your Oakland Roots, again, will be this upcoming Saturday, October the 1st, against the Birmingham Legion, 7 p.m. start time for that one. Of course, again, I will probably most likely, not even most likely or possibly, I will definitely end up probably touching bases on previewing more with this game a couple days from now on show number 320 because of the fact that during this final game of the year, the Oakland Roots will be honoring the late Godfather Grizz Jones and hosting members of Forever Oakland and members of Grizz's family at this contest. Alfonso, a.k.a. DJ Mopskull, and Edris, basically, last couple days have been getting that all finalized, getting little final pieces to back with that, obviously checking in with who from Grizz's family is going to make it out there and, who from the group is going to come out there. Me being one of the core members, I definitely will be on deck for that sold-out game and to be a part of whatever's going to be going on to honor Grizz on October the 1st. And Alfonso, a.k.a. DJ Mopskull, basically personally thanking me for getting the ball rolling on that with setting things up initially to have the Roots honor Grizz at their last game. And unfortunately, don't know if Grizz ever got a chance to check out the Roots in person. I know we followed stuff here and there. Obviously, the team had looked into trying to do some stuff with Grizz and Forever Oakland, apparently pre-COVID, and then COVID screwed that all off. And before it came to anybody's mind to look into that again, everything ended up happening. And then, of course, unfortunately, Godfather's no longer with us. But he definitely will be proud and be there with us in spirit when that goes down on the 1st. And again, kind of once I got a little bit more rough ideas of some of the stuff that's going on, I'll probably touch bases more on that in the coming days. But definitely thank you from myself and the rest of the core members at Forever Oakland and Grizz's family as well for the Oakland Roots doing that at the upcoming final regular season home game of 2022. Current standings in the Western Conference of the USL Championship. San Antonio FC currently has the lock in on the first spot, and I'm just trying to check up things as far as how everything goes here in regards to that. Wow, it'd be nice if you all had the key breakdown here for how things are earned. Anyway, San Antonio FC in the first place spot, and I'm assuming that with the Y listed on there, that's basically that they're the conference champions, I guess, per se. They're one of the only two teams in the Western Conference that have locked up a playoff berth at this point. Record of 22-5-4. That's 22 wins, 5 losses, and 4 ties or draws. I know a lot of soccer fans prefer to use the term draw out there. So, yeah, 22 wins, 5 losses, and 4 draws for San Antonio FC, who have, of course, the top spot in the Western Conference. San Diego Loyal SC is in the second spot, and again, they're the other of the two teams in the Western Conference that have clinched a playoff berth at this point in time. San Diego is 18-19-4 for a total of 58 points. In case I forgot to mention it, San Antonio FC in the top spot has a total of 70 points. And again, behind them in second with 58 points is San Diego Loyal FC. Third place currently belongs to the Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC, who, of course, played your Oakland Roots to a 1-1 draw yesterday out in Colorado Springs. They're 16-12-4 for a total of 52 points. Sacramento Republic FC is currently in the fourth spot with a record of 14-9-7 for a total of 49 points. You then have El Paso Locomotive FC and New Mexico United technically tied for the fifth spot right now. El Paso's in the fifth spot, and New Mexico's in the sixth spot right now. Both teams have a total of 43 points. El Paso has the advantage between those two teams right now with a record of 12-12-7 for that 43 total. And New Mexico United, who, again, technically tied for fifth, but in the standings is in the sixth spot in the conference, has a record of 11-9-10 for a total of 43 points. Currently, the seventh and final potential playoff spot in the Western Conference at the moment belongs to Rio Grande Valley FC, who are 12-12-6 for a total of 42 points. On the outside looking in the eighth spot right now are your Oakland Roots, who have a record of 9 wins, 9 losses, and 13 ties in 2022 for a total of 40 points. Tied with them right now in the eighth spot is the expansion franchise, a team that initially started off all the way in the basement, and hey, they're potentially on the outside looking in, which is crazy to see that right now. That, of course, being the expansion Monterey Bay FC. So shout out, of course, to the squad from Dano's neck of the woods. Monterey Bay currently at this point in time has a record of 12-4-4 for a total of 40 points. 10th place belongs to Las Vegas Lights FC, who are 10-13-7 for a total of 37 points. 11th place belongs to the LA Galaxy 2, who have a record of 10-14-6 for 36 points. Phoenix Rising FC, who obviously took our former head coach, and we're hoping maybe for things to turn around. Not happening. Second to last for them in the Western Conference right now with a record of 9-15-6 for 33 points. And the 13th and final spot in the conference, last place, belongs to Orange County SC with a record of 17-13-11 for a total of 32 points. So, 3 games to go, 1 spot out. Anything can happen, man. Best option, of course, obviously, would be for the Roots to win out and get 9 points. It's obviously 3 points apiece over the course of these 3 games. We'll have to obviously wait and see what happens with that, and, of course, what happens with the teams that are ahead of them in that race for the final spots in the Western Conference as far as playoff berths go. Obviously, of course, as well, for anyone wondering about what went down as far as things with that meeting that the JPA was having last Friday the 16th, back on Friday the 16th, or back on the whatever it was. For anyone wondering about if there's been any additional details about what went down in as far as that JPA meeting with the Roots go, it was pretty much from sources that we've talked to, just, pretty much a meeting where it was a preliminary hearing and pretty much discussion of what we read in that. Nothing really bigger outside of that, but obviously, just like with the situation with the Howard Terminal Project for the A's, we are definitely, of course, keeping our eyes and ears open for whatever goes down with this potential project for potentially a temporary soccer stadium at the Malibu lot. Keep your eyes, ears, and open in regards, as I get all twisted there, as far as things go with that. And that concludes this show's edition of the Oakland Roots SC segment. Again, hey, 3 more games left to go, 1 regular season home game left to go. Again, if you didn't get tickets, you're SOL. You got to get them from a scalper, or, hey, hopefully somebody gifts you some tickets, because otherwise you ain't going to get into that final game of the regular season this year on October the 1st, because that bad boy is sold out. And, of course, as always, for additional information on the Oakland Roots Sports Club, be sure to go and check things out over on the internet at their official website, www.oaklandrootssc.com. On that note, hey, if you there I go again, another show in a row where I accidentally pull up the Shark stuff when ain't even when anywhere near time to do anything with the Sharks yet on this show, though it's getting close. That probably will happen soon. We just got to check on that, but not time to pull up that stuff. However, there we go, proper image that I was supposed to have there. You've had time to do it. This broadcast has been going on for almost 3 hours now. I wasn't expecting to do a 3-hour show. I thought it was only going to be a 2.5-hour plus show, but hey, ended up not being the case. Nearly a 3-hour broadcast yet again with me just running my mouth. But if you have not had a chance to do so, your time is up, and you'll have to wait until show number 320 on Friday to have another crack at submitting a response to the fan question of the night. I'm going to go ahead now and check it and read off any and all responses that we have for the fan question of the night, of course, for this edition of the show. As I mentioned earlier, we try to always put a fan question up before each and every broadcast because of the fact that since we don't have any sort of call-in capability set up here yet and don't know when we will for the foreseeable future, fan question of the night is really the best way to get interaction directly here on the show, and outside, of course, run into us or talking to us throughout the course of the day. So, yeah, as I have mentioned, always keep your eyes and ears open for that. There usually always will be a fan question each and every show. Sometimes, obviously, there isn't, but hey, for the most part, there usually are. And hey, at least from what I'm seeing over on Facebook, we got, or not Facebook, excuse me, we got a couple responses over on Twitter to this one. So, hey, it's going to be actually more than a one-and-done fan question response for this edition of the show. Obviously, also trying to get things set up to see if anybody left any responses to the fan question that I had over on our Facebook page. But on that note, let's go ahead and read off what responses are out there to the fan question of the night for show number 319 of AFR. And, of course, the fan question of the night for tonight's edition of the show was, we wanted to hear your thoughts on Stephen Vogt announcing that he will retire at the end of the 2022 season. We'll go ahead and start off with the responses to the fan question from our Twitter page. And, of course, for those of you out in the Twitterverse, if you're not yet doing so, be sure, of course, to follow us over on Twitter at A's_fan_radio. Oli Chappie Forever, that of course is at IndieRock79, chimed in with, I appreciate the genuine emotion. Vitamin D chiming in with, hopefully his future is with the Oakland A's in some sort of coaching capacity eventually. Deborah L. Phillips put in a +1 to what basically was said by Vitamin D. And the fourth and final response over on things to the fan question of the night over on the Twitter side of shenanigans, coming from 74 Oakland A's, who you can follow at 21YYZ12 on Twitter. He chimed in with, he's a class act. Glad he was on our team. I wear my Vote All-Star jersey all the time here where I now live in Perth, Australia. So another one of the A's fans that tunes in the show from the land down under. Glad he ended up with a ring. He would never get it with this garbage ownership. He's, of course, talking about when Vogt got a ring last year with Atlanta, and obviously we all know who he's talking about in regards to the garbage ownership. He concludes with, I really hope he gets one when he's a manager someday. So, yeah, thank you for the four of you that responded to the fan question of the night over on Twitter. Looks like no responses on Facebook, unfortunately. Hey, it is what it is. We got more than one response one way or another, regardless if they were all from Twitter or if they were from both spots. So, yeah. Again, thank you for those of you that did chime in and gave a response to the fan question of the night for tonight's edition of the show. Again, as I mentioned, definitely always keep your eyes open for that because we always try to throw out a fan question of the night for each and every one of our show broadcasts. As always, for the latest information pertaining to your number one source for everything and anything on your Oakland Athletics, be sure to check us out at AsFAnRadio.com. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/AsFAnRadio. Follow us on Twitter at A's_fan_radio. Catch all past editions of AFR, past editions of the Bear Raid presented by Tightwad Hill as well, and more over on our YouTube channel, which you, of course, can view and be sure to also subscribe to as well. Which, of course, you can do all that at youtube.com/C/AsFanRadio. Again, if you haven't done so, hit that subscription button over on our YouTube channel so that way you can be notified every time new content gets put up on the YouTube channel. And, of course, as always, unless otherwise noted, you can catch every single live broadcast of A's Fan Radio right here on twitch.tv/AsFanRadio, which is where, again, you can catch us 5 days from now when we'll be coming at you at high noon on Friday, September the 30th with show number 320 of AFR. All right, try not to drag things on here too much with my final thought, which I know I'm sometimes notorious for. We'll try not to do that, but can't promise anything with that. Couple of reminders before I begin really my final thought, but this is all part of my final thought. I guess you can say it's a three-part final thought. Number one, reminder, and obviously I'll be reminding people of this again throughout the course of the week and during show number 320 on Friday. Come out and join myself and the rest of the crew at Forever Oakland as we continue the legacy of the late Godfather Grizz Jones by continuing the first Saturday of the month cleanups that he started many, many years ago, and, of course, continue to do our job to kick poverty in the ass in Oakland and beyond. Again, meetup for that will be, of course, Saturday, October the 1st. That'll be going down from 9 a.m. to 12 noon p.m. on 10-1. Of course, meetup at 9 a.m. over at 559 66th Avenue, a.k.a. Mob Alley, of course, over in Oakland, California. Again, for more information and how you can find out about getting involved with either this upcoming first Saturday of the month cleanup or any of our future first Saturday of the month cleanups, be sure to contact Forever Oakland President Alfonso Guevara at his contact information on there. You can also contact Forever Oakland Vice President Jamal Shamam at his contact info as well. Again, first Saturday of the month cleanup presented by Forever Oakland. That will be going down Saturday, October the 1st from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Together we will make Oakland better, and we will continue to honor Godfather Grizz Jones and his legacy in making Oakland better. Again, kind of want to throw out my 2 cents as well in regards to this Hall of Fame class next year for the Oakland Athletics. You know, again, good choices on there, but again, I'm going to say this for Covell and others in there and whoever the hell else has a say in this. Y'all need to add Carl Finley to the Athletics Hall of Fame already. Stop delaying it. Quit BSing with it. Put Carl Finley in the A's Hall of Fame already, damn it. This is ridiculous. I myself and others and his daughter Nancy shouldn't have to keep putting out tweets and posts reminding y'all to do that. You should have somebody in there that knows that Carl Finley was a big contributor into why a lot of those players that were a part of the swinging A's were there, and even some of the guys, you know, that were a part of things later on. Carl was there when Ricky was found. You know, come on, man. Stop doing an injustice to Carl Finley and put him in the A's Hall of Fame. It's overdue. He should have been put in there when Charlie was put in there, for crying out loud. Finally, as always, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in and putting up with our shenanigans and madness here on AFR. Another one where I ended up coming solo, so apologies in advance from the main man, for the boss man, for not joining us. But hey, again, can't get mad at him. His father came into town. You know, if you don't see your parents that often, you know, and if you're those out there that, you know, do still have your parental units involved in your life in some way or form, got to enjoy that, got to take advantage of that. Can't get mad at boss man for doing that. So, again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for bearing with me on this broadcast. And definitely be looking forward to doing this all again 5 days from now with show number 320 of AFR. Again, on behalf of the rest of the cast of AsFAnRadio, I am the legally 5150 Corporal Oaktown. Y'all take care and enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. The views and opinions of our cast, our guests, and our listeners are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the Oakland Athletics or Major League Baseball. Good night, Walter Haas. Good night, King Al. Still screw your punk-ass son with a bowl cut, who, is 0-3 now and the only 0-3 team in the NFL right now. That's what y'all get. Long live the Vegas curse, baby. Good night, Chesty Puller, wherever you may be, looking over the Marines of the past, present, and the ones dumb enough to join Uncle Sam's Misguided Misfits in the future. Good night, Auntie Di-Di. Love you and miss you. And, of course, good night. Love you and miss you, too, as well, Godfather Grizz Jones, as you continue to look down on us from the Coliseum in the sky. As always, don't drink and drive. Wrap it before you tap it. Same old crap I always got told during every single safety brief during the 4 years that I was in the United States Marine Corps. Because, hey, we want to see you right back here 5 days from now. Same Twitch channel, not the same bat time, because, hey, we're coming at you, obviously, at high noon on Friday with the next edition of the show. So, yeah, hey, be sure to come and join us on Friday, September the 30th at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for the next edition of A's Fan Radio. Until then, good night, Oakland and beyond. And as always, be sure to stay Oakland, my friends.
It's a celebration.